Good evening, Somers, and welcome to our Somers regular meeting, September 12th, 2019. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Thank you. Patty, roll call.
Councilman William G. Faulkner.
Here.
Councilman Richard G. Clinchon.
Here.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Here.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr.
Here.
Supervisor Rick Morrissey.
Present. Okay, our first order of business tonight is a continuation of our public hearing on the formation of Somers Sewer District Number 2. I'd like to make a motion to, do we need a motion to open it again, or
Yeah.
Okay, make a motion to open.
Continue it.
continue it? Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. I'd like to ask our town engineers to give us a synopsis for those who are just tuning in or do not know we're trying to form a sewer district. So if you would.
Good evening. Welcome, public. I'm Joe Barbagallo, town's consulting engineer. I have with me from my office Ken Kohlbrenner and Steve Robbins, both of whom have been working on this project and leading a lot of the discussions. We're going to have them walk through about a 15-20 minute presentation. Steve's going to give an overview of a lot of the background for this project, and then Ken will dive into more of the details around the project. You have a handout. I don't know if you've seen the handout. There's a handout in the back of the room, because we can't really project that well in here. The slides that we're going through are part of that handout that's in the back. I'll go in the back and I'll grab those and I'll walk up and down the aisle if anybody needs anybody happen to hand them out. Okay. So with that, I'll pass it over to Steve, and Steve can start with the project background.
Good evening. My name's Steve Robbins. I'm with Woodard & Curran Engineering. So just as a synopsis on this sewer project and why we're here. It's well established that Lake Shenorock and Lake Lincolndale, their water quality has been deteriorating over time. Lake Shenorock is in an advanced state of eutrophication and has a lot of accumulated silt in it. Lake Lincolndale, obviously there have been some issues with water quality there as well over time, and certainly this summer with the closure of the beach due to algae blooms. Both Lake Shenorock and Lake Lincolndale are on the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation's list of impaired water bodies. So the state is paying attention to these as well, and it's incumbent on the town to take action to help improve water quality for the environment and for some of the intended recreational uses for the lakes as well. Around that goal, the Somers Lake Sustainability Program Committee was formed in 2017 to help those communities advocate for the water quality needs of them and to provide community input. Those organizations have been meeting regularly since 2017. And they've been assisting the town in developing its three-prong approach, is what we call it, to restoring the lakes and reinvigorating these lake communities. This is a holistic approach. It involves stormwater improvements. There have been improvements put in place with grant money around Lake Shenorock. We've been looking at opportunities to do so around Lake Lincolndale as well, and those are proceeding. The state is changing some of its stormwater grant requirements from when they were done at Lake Shenorock, which is why there's been a little bit of a delay in that, but we do intend on behalf of the town to continue to investigate those. But obviously stormwater improvements are a key component of that three-pronged strategy. Wastewater is obviously a critical issue in these communities as well. These are relatively dense communities in terms of having septics. They're significantly above the threshold that the EPA establishes for what they consider high density of septic systems. The primary area right around these lakes are what is in the town's R10 zoning district. These are 10,000 acre or 10,000 square foot, area lots. So they're relatively small and they have limited capacity to accept wastewater. And the third prong of that strategy is really restoring the community's access to those lakes and providing access to those for the communities to continue to enjoy them as they were decades ago. Some key points of this sewer project. It's taken a long time to get to this point, to be able to be in a position to propose sewers for these lake communities. There's been a couple of primary obstacles. The first is obviously funding. In 1998, there was a memorandum of agreement between New York City DEP and Westchester County, where the DEP provided $68 million for improvements in the watershed. $10 million of that 68 was allocated for Somers in 2006. And also in 2006, 4 other communities were also allocated $10 million out of that funding, North Salem, Bedford, Newcastle, and Yorktown. Because of the dense nature of septic systems and the proximity to the surface water bodies in the New York City watershed. That allocation of funds was committed by the Northern Westchester Watershed Committee in 2016 and again in 2019. So it's been reaffirmed several times that there is this allocation of money for sewers in these lake communities. This is a project that has been in design and preparation for years. A lot of the infrastructure that's been installed in the town around sewers has anticipated that this day might come. When the preserves was built in the late 80s, early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, those pump stations and sewers were sized to accommodate the flow from these communities to be able to continue pumping that wastewater to where it will eventually be treated at the Westchester County Peekskill wastewater treatment plant. The historic hurdle, other than funding, has been the county's willingness to accept additional flows to that wastewater treatment plant. That's been a political obstacle and one that has recently been cleared. So this project is now able to move forward because we both have funding in place for a significant portion of the project and a commitment on the county's part to be able to receive that wastewater. There was a wastewater study back in 2015 looking towards this again that explored options outside of the Peekskill plant for wastewater disposal, namely the Heritage Hills wastewater treatment plant. While that is viable technically, we can get the wastewater there. The treatment plant can treat it. That was a more costly option. The cost to connect, the cost to operate are much higher for that facility than if the town is able to use the Westchester County Peekskill wastewater treatment plant. So that historic political hurdle with the county has been cleared. They're now supportive. The county legislature does need to vote to formally expand its district, but that will come after the town, if the town chooses to expand the district or create the district itself. So this is a big deal. This is really the lowest cost option that the town has to bring sewers to these communities with the combination of an affordable disposal location and grant funding, money allocation as part of the DEP that has been put on the table, in addition to the work that the town has been doing to seek additional grants for this project. One of those grants is the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act, the WIA grant. We are applying for an additional $3 million in funding through that program to help also defray the cost of the sewer installation. And we'll be continuing to look at future funding programs, whether that's additional rounds of WIA funding at the state level, federal infrastructure funding from the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, water quality improvement programs, and state revolving fund loan applications as well. While the broader project requires more in funds than is presently available, the ability to access that funding, it's important to show progress towards this. Because this has been such a long time in the making, the ability to demonstrate the town's commitment to providing sewers in these areas and being able to show an initial phase of construction, we think is critical toward the town being competitive for future funding opportunities which are critical for this overall project. So with that, Ken will walk through some of the project details. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Raise this up a little bit here. So I will go through just briefly the handout, some of the key points that have been presented as part of the project for formation of the sewer district. So what we're looking at is a phased project. The total district would comprise about 987 properties. We would be looking to utilize the initial funding allocation of $10 million for phase one to sewer a portion of properties within both the Lake Shenorock and Lake Lincolndale communities to provide the initial base infrastructure and then expand from there. And as was mentioned, we are actively pursuing additional funding opportunities and would look to expand phase one as that funding is potentially realized. And so then from there would look to complete the balance of sewers within each of the lake communities over a period of time as we get into a rolling cycle of continually applying for these regular grant programs are typically on a yearly basis. And so if we look at each section individually, initially phase one, total project of $10 to $13 million, and then the balance of Lake Shenorock, $28 to $30 million from there, and then Lincolndale, $21 to $22 million. And that difference, again, depending on how we might apply, if we are successful in that $3 million, what that initial phase looks like. And so overall, a total project cost of about $62 million, which is certainly a very substantial size. And we are fortunate to have an initial allocation of $10 million from DEP, but we'll be continuing to seek that additional funding to help defray the annual costs per property, and and to minimize the financing that the district needs to take on as part of that. And so what the formation of the district is based on preparation of the map planner report, which is the document that defines the properties that are included, the costs, and is reviewed and approved by the Office of the State Comptroller. And that report includes these capital costs and that funding anticipation to be able to set the average annual costs. And we'll get into what those look like. So the annual costs are based on a combination of factors. There is, as we are connecting to the Peekskill Sanitary Sewer District, there is a portion that is assessed for buy-in to the county district, and that's to pay for infrastructure projects that have been completed to allow sanitary sewer, or the connection from Somers, as well as upgrades at the treatment plant to provide capacity. And so that is based on it's an ad valorem basis based on a market value of and varies based on the market value of each individual property. For the properties in the sewer district, we're looking at an average of $184 for that piece. And that cost is assessed, or starts to become assessed on an annual basis as soon as the sewer district is formed, and is paid over a 10-year period. So that is assessed from the beginning, regardless of whether the property is connected. And then with the initial phase one, there would also be an O&M cost, again, to pay for O&M at the county facility, at the wastewater treatment plant, maintenance of the sewer mains, as well as the local district would incur some O&M costs for maintenance of the pump stations. And that is estimated about $415. And so for phase one properties that are connected initially, it's about an average annual cost of $585 per year, because as part of phase one, there's no financing incurred. The rest of the sewer district, properties not connected, would pay on average $184 per year. Once then future phases are conducted and financing is incurred and there's debt payment that needs to be paid, that cost then starts to be spread across the entirety of the district. And at full build out, again based on the grant funding that we were looking to obtain, that average annual cost is estimated at just under $1,200 per year per property. Again, that's an average annual cost that varies based on the market value of the individual property and can range from about $500 to about $2,200 per year. And so that's the max cost. There is a scenario that potentially there's a portion when a property in a future phase may not be connected, but we'll be having to pay some of that cost, but will not be responsible for the O&M cost. We also had several questions at prior meetings about grinder pumps. The majority of the sanitary sewer system is gravity connection to a centralized pump station. Based on topography around the lake, there are some properties that cannot be served by gravity and will be required to have an individual grinder pump installed at each property. The cost for that installation is carried as part of the project and will be provided by the town. The individual property owner then would be responsible for the electrical cost for that grinder pump, which is estimated to be a pretty minimal cost. These are small pumps. It does also have 24 hours backup storage based on peak flow, and that's a county health department requirement. So again, 24 hours at that typical peak flow. During a power outage, typically anticipate that flows are a little bit less, and so there is some extended storage for extended power outages. There is also a generator receptacle that will be provided at each panel to allow for a portable generator, if available, to plug into the panel and help pump down. Again, if we're talking up to a week of power outages when we start to see that scenario. Some of the other questions that have come up relative to the laterals. Again, the lateral connection for the individual properties are included in the cost of the overall project, that's $62 million. And so that includes coming from the main in the street onto the property, typically to the vicinity of the existing septic system, to make that connection to the sanitary sewer. There may be certain scenarios that we would look at during detailed design. Individual locations would work with the property owner to identify what makes the most sense, if it's to tend toward one side of the property or the other, depending on where the septic tank is located. There may be replumbing options available, and would work through those during detailed design. But again, that cost is included. We do recognize that that's a substantial cost as part of the district, and so looking in the future to balance that funding, we'll look at, we've had several property owners say, I would like to connect to make the connection on the property myself as opposed to having the town do it. We would certainly support that and would work with the property owner in doing that. There's not a mechanism to reimburse the individual property owners for that, and so it may be something in the future, depending on funding scenarios, how we're doing with project costs. We may look at that as an option. Just going through again some of the other questions. Again, we're looking to form the entirety of the sewer district now, because this is when we have the opportunity to connect to the county sewer district. It requires an action by the Board of Legislators to expand the Peekskill Sewer District, and there's the momentum to do that now, and want to take advantage of doing that, recognizing that the initial phase will be completed, and then it will require additional phases. There's been the question as to why can't we do everything all at once, and it's just a matter of where we are with the the grant funding opportunities right now. We're looking at $38 million of grant funding that we will be targeting. There's not a pot sitting out there of that total amount, so we'll be pursuing that over time as a phased approach, and again, want to take advantage of that initial $10 million to start to gain momentum. The funding agencies want to see progress and want us to see a commitment on the town's behalf toward expanding this. And with that, I think we will.
Just one
Yep.
thing. I think, I'm not sure if you mentioned this. If so, forgive me. Let's say I'm in phase 2. I'm paying $184, if I remember correctly, but I get nothing out of it. What happens to that money, and is it just lost? I think that there is an answer from the county.
Yep. Yeah, so that's a very good point, Councilman, that so once the property is in the county sewer district, there is a reimbursement program that the county offers to pay for a periodic septic system pump out. So that's part of the routine maintenance that should be conducted as part of maintaining a septic system. That program currently offers a reimbursement of $300 every 3 years. It currently runs through August 2020 and is expected to be renewed and continued and anticipated. We actually have gotten indication maybe 2 years from the county, but we'll have to see how that proceeds. But that does also include, in addition to the pump out, every 6 years there is a $275 reimbursement for a septic system inspection. And so that's the county understanding that there is, as part of the district, there are costs being incurred, but there is still septic maintenance that is being ongoing, and so trying to help offset some of that cost.
And you've basically called it a wash in the past. So basically, the money's out, money's back.
Again, it'll depend on the individual property and the market value. So at an average, $184 over 3 years, and a septic system pump out over that time period could run on the order of $300, $400.
Ken, talk about the time frame. Was it 0 to 5 years, or what does it look like, the time horizon for the implementation?
Sure. So we're here now, getting into the fall of 2019, formation of the district. If the town does proceed with formation of the district and would work through the state review and approval this fall into early next year, would anticipate heading into detailed design 2020 through the majority of 2020, anticipating potentially a fall 2020 bid, and setting up for construction in 2021. Project initially this size would estimate on the order of about 12 months construction. So everything proceeds on track potentially by the end of 2021.
So that's essentially
Initial
phase
phase.
1.
Correct.
And at no cost to really at minimal cost to the homeowner at that point, because it's a $10 million.
Correct.
Right?
There's no financing cost as part of phase 1. And what we would be doing is, again, as we're into, design in 2020, we would be already looking ahead next year to start applying for next year's grant applications to start setting up for what the future phases might look like.
So you're looking for the least cost solution by applying for grants. Grants are sort of annual events. And so over that period of time, as you acquire a grant money, you'll implement the second phases of the project.
Yep. Yeah, and that would be part of an overall strategy to understand what those grant opportunities are, target the ones that would be applicable to this type of project, and then start to tailor those phases to match up with what the grant opportunities are.
And when you talk about the average cost to the to the homeowner, we're talking about an average of $1,200, obviously, plus or minus. That's going to phase in over the time of the 5-year project, let's say, right? Correct?
Correct. Initially, once the district is formed, it's just the county buy-in, and then once the property is connected, not until then does the O&M piece come into place, and then the financing piece comes into place once the district begins to incur debt. And again, that wouldn't be part of phase 1. That would likely be part of a future phase.
So,
I'm sorry.
yeah, so the debt is probably half the project cost, and that'll happen at the back end in theory, right?
Yeah, that's, further out at this point.
Yeah, a lot of that, Councilman, might have to do with the grant program. We might need to encumber some debt in order to provide matching funds.
Working capital, yeah.
A lot of these grant programs require a certain amount of match.
Right.
And right now, the program is built in, of the $63 million, $62 million project, $15 million in borrowing.
Yes.
So in other words, getting 60-something plus million dollars worth of infrastructure and only layering $15 million worth of borrowing on the residents is the plan, and that's what's written in the map plan and report. But I would anticipate that it will come probably after we get done with phase one. Every future phase will likely have some portion of small borrowing because to contribute to the matching funds.
But it wouldn't all happen in one chunk.
Right.
No, I don't see a scenario, for example, where we go ahead and take all the $15 million for the next phase, and so we've encumbered all the debt, and there's still homes not connected. I think that will be metered out over the course of all connections.
I think it's easier for the homeowner. I mean, obviously, cost is the major issue here. No one doubts that it's a good project. The question is, for the individual person,
Right.
can I afford that? So as it gets phased in, that's a little easier. Did I understand you correctly that in phase one, I don't have to connect. I have to pay part of the charge, but I don't have to pay for the O&M until I'm actually in it. Am I correct?
Correct. Yeah, neither the county O&M nor the town district O&M portion would be assessed until the property is connected.
I'd also just say my personal opinion is that as we proceed with phases, whether it be phase two or parts of phase two as it gets phased in, so to speak, that we make sure that the obvious, we've explored and exhausted all grant opportunities before we proceed, so that we're sure we have every possible dollar that we can get to help the individual homeowner.
Absolutely. And again, as part of the state's review and approval of the map plan and report, we are then limited to the annual costs presented in there. That's part of what they review and approve, and so we would need to target that certain funding amount to be able to proceed with the project.
Right.
So this
I would-
plan establishes sort of, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
No,
establish-
I would like to open it up to the,
I agree.
we've been asking
it's a public
questions,
hearing.
the public is here, so you want to finish your question and?
No, I'm just saying the plan establishes a cap, right? And if we come under budget, it may be less. Now, it's a complicated implementation, right? We're going to everybody's doorstep here and connecting. We're trying to mitigate the cost to individual homeowner by making the connections for them. So therefore, there's a big contingency number in here. I'm hoping we do better.
All right, sir, you had a question? If you come up to the mic,
Come
please.
up to the mic. We'll answer from here. I'll field the questions. We gotta
We
take
have a mic
advantage of
here,
our two
too.
mics. I have a mic here.
I'm wondering, name and address.
Please?
Charles Jerome, 15 Crest Drive, Center Rock. I'm wondering who's going to maintain the ejector pump from the property up to the street? The grinder pump.
The district will, so it will not be a responsibility of the homeowner to maintain. The pump and the line to the street will be maintained by the sewer district. Okay? You're required to provide the electric, so you're
I did read
gonna.
something that said, unfortunately, it would be up to the homeowner.
That's
I don't know where you read
misinformation.
that.
It's under Woodward Curran map plan and report.
Yeah, that's been corrected. I think that was some confusing language in there. It has been corrected in the current report. I'll tell you here today what we've said at the last 3 hearings, which is the district will have the responsibility for maintenance, and frankly, that's going to be a requirement coming out of the health department anyway. We've seen that. Ken recently did the Peach Lake district, and that was a requirement coming out of Peach Lake by the health department. We're in the process of doing Bedford's system right now. It's a requirement from the health department for those to be maintained, and we fully anticipate and are committing to
all we'll
that.
be responsible for is the electric.
Correct.
Okay. One more question. If we've been put into this district, can we opt out of it?
I would defer to council on that, and not, I mean, I'll let council answer that
Well,
question.
no,
No, you
Mike.
cannot.
You cannot.
No.
That's once you're fully in, though, right?
The,
Once you're fully.
the district has been formed in a way, the boundaries have been formed in a way that provides the most environmental benefit to the greatest number of people, and individual homeowners cannot opt out. You have the power to petition for a vote, and if you vote it negatively, then the district won't be formed. But an individual property owner just can't step forward and say, I don't want it. That's not permitted.
So thank you for that question on the grinder pump clarification. I think that benefited everyone. Thank you. Sir?
My name's Stephen Nadelhap, live 10 Lakeview Drive.
Yeah, we're going to move
pull
that
it
down a
down.
little.
Yeah, how's that? That better? Even with my hearing aids, I was able to hear myself. My name is Stephen Nadelhap, live 10 Lakeview Drive. I noticed there are a lot of houses that are not in any district. Will we ever be included? I'm on 10 Lakeview Drive between Route 118 and Walker Drive.
Yeah, well, we never say never, okay? So,
I'm saying, will we ever be? I didn't say will we never be. I said, will we ever be?
will you ever be?
So your property right now is not in because the boundaries that were identified are a function of the R10 zone, I was mentioned before. That's what we're forming now. In the future, you could petition to come into the district. That would give you responsibility for infrastructure to do that connection if you and your neighbors or there were other people that wanted to get in. In the future, there is a process to petition to get in, but infrastructure costs would be borne by the individual. And I don't know if Roland has anything you want to add to that.
It's possible that the town could also
Roland,
do
you
a
gotta get on the mic.
It's possible that the town would also opt to do a borrowing and allow those extension owners to pay the cost of that debt service.
Okay.
So basically, if all our neighbors want to go in, it'll be our responsibility to fund this? Is that what you're saying?
To fund.
One way of doing it. The other way of doing it is to petition for an extension to the district, ask the town to do the borrowing, and then you would pay the debt service on that additional borrowing.
But those in the district now, they're not going to pay other than for maintenance and operations, correct?
The first phase initially is not going to pay any debt service. But as debt service becomes a reality for the entire district, then the entire district will share in the cost of that debt service.
And right now, none of the houses that are in any of the districts are going to be responsible for any of this funding that are in the districts, correct?
The first phase.
In the
does not
future
have any-
phases, we anticipate 15 million in borrowing.
For all the phases.
You're not answering the
individually.
question. The
I
question
must not
is-
be understanding
The
it.
question is, if no one has a home in any of the phases, are they going to be responsible for any of the funding
Oh,
for
no.
the
No.
phases?
No.
You're not
It's
in.
only
You're
in
not
the district.
Okay,
The district pays the district costs.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Glenn Massey, 39 Rogers Lane, Shannon Rock, New York. So the estimate that we have on the table is primarily, from what I understand, $1,200 a month yearly for each household hooked up to the system. Is that an estimate that includes all these grants that are speculative, or is that a number where no matter whether it's speculative or not, that's going to be our cost?
So my understanding is when we issue a plan map and report, which is what we've done, that goes, the process after we're done at the town level, that goes up to the state controller. Once the state controller approves that document, the town is bound by those parameters. Okay, so what does that mean? If we don't get the $38 million in the future, which I don't think is a likely scenario. We've already been speaking with many.
But that's not a guarantee.
Right, so,
That's not a
so if we were going to say, oh, you know what, we're going to go ahead and borrow all the money, we've looked at that scenario. We don't think that that's a scenario that the state controller would approve, right? So that's why we have formulated this in the way that it is, and unless council wants to correct, you know, has to add something else. My understanding is, if it's going to be more than that number on average, it needs to be another public process in order to initiate that next, to make a
Okay,
modification.
So those grants and everything is purely speculative at this point? Nothing's guaranteed?
Nothing is guaranteed.
And
I think it's a better way to say it, that nothing is guaranteed as opposed to it's speculative. We've obviously been having conversations with the DEP about additional funding. We have a meeting on Monday with the EFC to talk about the WIA grant. You know, we're meeting with our grant consultants. So it's not like, we are pursuing these things, but there's no guarantees.
So if the money is borrowed, we're going to have to pay that back, so...
There would be another public process, though. Not under this public process is that a scenario.
So that would be on top of the $1,200 figure that we're...
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that that's not what we're talking about here, right?
Huh?
What we're talking about here is that it's only the $1,200 for the project that we're talking about here. And if we were going to come back and do exactly what you're saying, there would be another round of these meetings.
Would it be too late at that point? Because we won't have an option?
No, in other words, what I think Joe is saying is, we won't go to those additional phases if we don't qualify for the funding,
Okay.
because we can't just borrow more than we said we were gonna borrow and increase your costs unless we got back in this room and you all agreed to pay more.
Okay.
But we couldn't do it without your approval.
So along with those lines of how much the yearly payments are going to be, this is going to be the Somers sewage, what's going to be the title?
Somers Sewer District number 2.
Okay, is there any guarantee to anybody here that that's not going to be sold to a waste management company, that the costs are going to go up from there? Is there any guarantee to anybody here within X amount of years that that's not going to be sold to a waste management company?
This is a municipal district. It can't be sold.
Or managed or sublet
Oh,
or whatever?
It could be run under a contract, but we still have to meet these guidelines financially. It might be to your benefit to have it operated privately.
If
rather than
anybody, if
municipal.
anybody operates it privately, they're not going to be in it to keep getting status quo. They're going to be in it for
Well,
profit.
that's why it may not be likely, but there are companies that manage these districts. Peach Lake over in Somers, it's managed by a
North
private
Salem.
company.
North Salem.
In North
And
Salem.
it's more, in North Salem, it's more economical to have it run privately than with municipal employees.
All right. I just wanted to know about the guaranteed cost. Now, where everybody's here for this meeting, because obviously we want to know what's going on and there's going to be a buy-in. So we all got to understand that this is a lowball cost to get us in. This is a lowball estimate. All right? So
Well,
just
I
think about...
wouldn't represent that as fact. That's your
well, but
opinion.
I'm
We
just
can
going to
just
say that
represent that as
nothing
your
goes
opinion.
down,
Glenn.
everything goes up.
I'm just saying we're bound by law, right? And I just want to say that's your opinion, Glenn.
Thank you.
And what's the contingency factor that you have built into this? About
We've got a
20%?
25% contingency
25%.
built in on our construction estimates, you know, so we're hopeful that as Councilman Sirico was saying, that we're going to do better. Believe me, we've been doing this long enough to know that everybody gets the granite and chisel out and chisels these numbers in, and we may work very hard to make sure that they're not lowball estimates. So,
So is there any guarantee for this $1,200 cost, how long that's going to stay that way?
Well, that's
It's
what
that
the
way
state
in-
controller is reviewing the map
Right.
plan and report. And if they review it, they see it, they approve it, it's $1,200
that's what it is.
average fee.
It can't go more.
We can't change that.
Oh, because, so that's in writing now, it's going to be $1,200?
Correct.
We're not going to come to a future meeting and it's going to be 16?
No, this is it. What's going to after tonight, that report goes to the state controller's office, as it is, as it's posted on the website today. Nothing happens after today. other than
One
that
person
gets
talk,
sent
please.
to the state controller's office.
Okay,
So we
'cause I-
can't, it's not like we walk out here and say, hey, all right, great, let's make it 1,600 tomorrow. We can't do that.
All right, so just for clarification, to clean your septic system, even if it was by law 3 times a year, is going to be cheaper than what's being proposed here now.
Sure, Peter.
Until your septic fails.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, here and then in the back.
Very good, Joe.
Linda Luciano, 10 Walker Drive. I want to just start off by saying, they keep saying 1,200. That's an average cost for a house that's $323,000, okay? The range is roughly $300 up to $2,200 if you go through your parcel list. So I'm so sick of hearing $1,200. Nobody knows what their actual costs are. It's all estimated.
I would just say that for anybody who's interested to know what your specific parcel number is, there's an appendix to the plan map and report. You can go down and look through that right now. We have extra copies of that. For example, while we were just discussing the gentleman who just spoke, I know his number is $1,100. We were just able to look that up. So that's not really accurate. Everybody can understand what it is.
It's an average. You keep saying
No, no, I'm
$1,200.
saying-
It's an
I'm
average.
saying every individual homeowner can understand what their exact number is if they
Yes.
go to the plan map and report.
Now, if you go onto the town website and you pull up this document, this is what you get. Can you read that? It's on purpose. It is extremely tiny, okay? Extremely tiny. It's ridiculous. So, I was going to mention this later on in my presentation, but I ended up extracting all of these numbers, blowing it up, putting in an Excel spreadsheet, put it onto the website, www.somerssewers.com, so people can easily click on a PDF and they can see it clearly. So we are here, September 12th, in a very busy month. Tonight there's an open house at the school and a lot of people can't make it. People don't always pay attention to these things that are happening in town. Some people work 2 jobs, some work nights and cannot come to the meetings. Some people don't have computers and they don't get emails or town code messages on their phones. Shoot, some don't even get the Somers record. During the summer, people are away, and I've complained about that, Carol. During the summer, people are away, and September is obviously the crazy month for everybody. Nobody got a mailer or was notified formally that something this important was being discussed and could potentially be a huge burden to some. We came back from vacation and heard about it. I sent out dozens of emails to friends in these communities that didn't even know either. Didn't you wonder where all these people were? Why there were not more people at your meetings? It's because people didn't know. Perfect example in this town. People say, oh, what, do you live on a rock? You didn't know this was going on? Does everybody know that we've had a nightclub in our town for the last 3.5 years? I'll speak about that at our town, the public comment. So, some residents don't find it fair that they don't live near the lake. They maintain their septics and don't have a problem, yet they should pay more than those folks who do have failing systems, who will be paying less. For those folks on the low spectrum, they will make out because they won't be paying very much. It doesn't seem fair. Everybody should be paying the same amount. We paid $40,000 for a modern septic system, and we will not recoup that money. Our septic system is larger than most lots in the area. We should not be burdened with the excess taxes due to other residents not upgrading their septic systems. When residents bought homes here, they knew it was septic. You are setting the boundaries for this district by R10 zoning when it should be set by who needs it. There are people not in the lines of your district that should be because they are wet and right on the streams. That is why this isn't about saving the lake. People moved here because it was a reasonable place to live with low taxes. I'm sorry, but nobody wants to pay more in taxes, especially when we really don't know the actual costs. The numbers being published are estimated costs. There are people on fixed incomes, and they cannot afford to pay more, especially when they don't have a problem. You will be pushing people out of our communities. If this goes through, our taxes, my taxes, will be above $18,000. And don't you see that the higher-priced homes with higher taxes are not selling here? You are devaluing my home due to the excessive taxes for a home in an R10 district. If I try to sell my home and they see the high taxes, they will go buy a house down the street in a nicer development. Homes in the preserves are paying anywhere from $400 to $700 for the Peekskill Sewer District, and another $240 for sewer consumption a year. That is an average of $640 to $940, and they have no financing, obviously. And granted, those houses are worth a little bit more than the houses in Shedrock. People need to know the truth of what is going to happen. There's been several people who have said they cannot make the meeting tonight, so they have asked me to read their email. So I'm going to read one right now.
How many people would that be?
One, the proposed sewer district will be a financial burden on the residents of Shedrock. There are over 8% of residents over 65 years old, most living on fixed incomes. Our annual water bills are $400 plus $362 for the pipeline, according to Barbagallo. Actual per-property costs would range from $500 to $2,200 per year. Additional costs, connections to each property would come to within 5 feet of a building. Owner is responsible for closing that gap. Interior plumbing, repair for lawn and driveway. The town should use the funds allotted from the grants to clean the lake and not burden the residents with additional costs. Some of the questions people wanted to know. So the people who really need it the most are getting it for free. If sewers go in and a homeowner doesn't hook up, what happens? You've already spoken to that already tonight. Who fixes your lawn, your walkway, and your shrubs when they dig up your front yard to put pipes in?
The town.
The town? So you're gonna dig 100 feet across my lawn more. I just put in a very expensive walkway. You have to now dig up my walkway to get the pipe towards my house. So who's gonna fix my walkway and my shrubs?
We would obviously seek to locate these lines in a way to minimize disruptions on each individual lot, but we are carrying the cost of installing that line and restoring the areas.
Okay.
If that includes a walkway, then that includes a walkway. If that includes a shrub, then that includes a shrub. We will obviously do our best to minimize those costs to keep the cost down for the district, right? Because remember, this is the district that we're looking to try to minimize the cost for, not anything beyond that.
Right. Now, you mentioned before when the gentleman...
Also, just since I'm paused, I just want to address a couple of your other comments. Number one is, just for clarification, is that this is now our third public hearing, so we understand about the time of year and stuff, so we tried to accommodate that by having a number of public hearings. We can disagree. I'm just wanting to make sure that
I know. It was during the summer when people were
I just
away.
want to make sure that the public has, they were August 15th, September 5th, and now this is September 12th.
And again, nobody was formally notified that these were going on.
The last thing I wanted to point out is when you reference the numbers from the preserves, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that when those individuals bought their homes, they paid a portion of the, so in other words, there's no debt borrowing because they borrowed to build their house. That was built into the cost of their house. So it's not really an apples to apples comparison is my point. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear for everybody.
So the gentleman that was just up here, let's see, from I think it was 15 Crest Drive, I'm not sure. But anyways, we were talking about the sewer district and who's going to pay. And you said that it's going to be maintained by the the grinder pump, that it's going to be maintained by the sewer district. That's going to be us. So we are going to be paying for those grinder pumps, just to let you know. All right, so is it true that a sewer line cannot come within a certain distance of a well?
There are separation requirements, yes.
Do you know what those are?
Sure, it varies.
I mean, I'm sure it varies. Do you know exactly off the top? I want to say it's 25 feet off the top of my head. I want to say it's 25 feet is that separation. What if you don't have that? Excuse me?
You'll get an opportunity to speak.
Well, we're talking about wells, right? I mean, in
Yes.
Shedrock, everybody is on town water, correct? And in Lincolndale,
No.
in Lincolndale would be where the issue is, more likely.
We have wells in Shenock, and you're going to be going by some wells, so that's why somebody wanted to
There will be a
know.
separation requirement. That, of course, we would comply with all of those separation requirements.
Okay. Does anybody know the percentage of the bacteria or contaminants that actually flow into the lake from residents' septics?
The See, that's we do know those numbers. We have tested those, but you got to remember that the damage to the lake is a function of nutrients,
Yeah.
right? Bacteria is not a nutrient,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Bacteria is not a nutrient. So there's nitrogen in your septic waste. There's nitrogen, just as in stormwater waste. There's phosphorus, and there's phosphorus in the waste. Those are the parameters or the contaminants that are impacting the lake. Now, granted, yes, coliforms could get there too. And
Well,
we
that's
have
what your
measured-
studies have showed, is the coliform. So,
We have looked at coliform in the past. Correct.
so that's why I'm asking, do we know what the percentage is of these things going into the lake?
Well, you've read the report. In 2015, we did a detailed study. All that is in the 2015 report, which I know you've gone through, so I know you know the answer to that question, right?
Yes, but a lot of people don't go through those reports. I don't understand half of what's in there. I'm no genius, okay? But that's why we're asking the questions, so that
But again,
people
this
can
is
hear.
about nutrients, not just about coliform. So we haven't measured the
It's-
nutrients. We see the effects of the nutrients in the lake. All that algae that we see in the lake and the eutrophication of the lake is a function of those nutrients. So there's obvious evidence of nutrients getting into those lakes, right? And that's what we're looking to try to correct.
Okay. Okay, so I keep hearing about the phosphorus hurting our lake, yet does everybody know that our town water has phosphorus in it? They are putting it into our water system to coat the inside of our water mains. We have been drinking bottled water because the water tastes different since they've been doing it. So everyone makes such a big deal that phosphorus is going into the lake, meanwhile they've been drinking it. Or maybe it's on purpose so that more phosphorus is going into our lake. There is also mud coming down the streams from the preserves and other areas polluting our lake. It's not just us. And what are we going to do about that? Has anybody even thought about that? It came up 9 years ago. So in your 2019 report, on page 4-7, okay, table 4, okay, unit cost construction costs. These numbers on here, you have a 2019 and you have a 2021 column. All right, the 21, I'm not worried about the 2019. I'm looking at the 2021 column. It adds up to $1,100,000, roughly, if I'm doing the math right, okay? Construction costs. So I don't see this $1,100,000 in any of your little tables or your little charts. What is that construction cost? Are these for the pump houses? Because there's going to be 3 pump houses.
Yeah, so those costs that you're seeing there are the individual unit costs, right? So we've estimated we build a lot of these around Westchester County, so we understand per linear foot how much does it cost for a pipe, how much does it cost for different things. Those numbers are identified in today's dollars in 29. These are unit costs. Those are not totalized numbers. Those are unit costs.
Okay.
Right. So that we then therefore escalate to 2021 because we're anticipating construction in the future, right? So we're escalating those unit prices, and then those unit prices get plugged into the master spreadsheet for the cost calculations.
Okay, so that's already tied into the main
Correct.
number.
Correct.
Okay. In the same report on page 4-9, capital cost summary, it's very misleading to some residents when you're putting in the outside funding in those columns and you do not have anything funded. So, I mean, we already spoke about that. So is the column on your list under the financing based on the proposed funding you think we're going to get at the $14 million? So my $2,200, because I'm at the high spectrum, so is that based on us getting the 15 million?
That's based on us getting $38 million in additional grant funding to complete the $63 million project.
All right, that's based on 30 million,
38 million.
38 million.
Right, if you do the math, right, 63 million total
Minus-
project minus 10 that we're getting from that.
Well,
we're
I don't
getting
care
from
about the 10, I'm phase 2. I'm looking at phase 2.
Right, $63 million minus 10 puts us at $53 million. Minus the 15 million in borrowing puts us at $38 million. That will be outside district funding.
Okay, so if we don't get that 14 million, that means we'll be paying 52 million.
No, that means we probably wouldn't move forward.
Yeah, we wouldn't be.
Okay, so, but how are we guaranteed you're not going to move forward?
Because didn't you say we're constrained by the map?
We're constrained by the map plan and report. As council said, if we looked at that scenario, and those numbers are something that we're not comfortable with on the town. That's why we've formulated this project in the way that we did. We could not do what you just are suggesting without being back in this room, as council said before. It would require another entirely separate and public process, and concurrence from the state controller on the back end.
Right. So, again, I go back to the whole...
Wait, let me I'm sorry, excuse me. And the state controller's test is usually an affordability test based on what are the existing taxes people are paying, what kind of increase does the state controller see as reasonable to not overly burden. The state controller is reviewing this report in the context of looking out for the individual homeowner. That's my understanding of the state controller's review, which is why we very much targeted a number that we thought would be reasonable for the residents and something that the state controller would accept.
Okay, so you have to realize how pissed off some residents are that they did not know this has been going on, okay? I know you put it in the newspaper. People don't read the newspaper,
Code
especially
Red.
when they're on what?
And Code Red.
Really? Okay. How many people you really think get Code Red?
I'm just saying, we
All
use
right.
multiple actions.
Okay? People don't even know what it is.
During the presentation, and since 2017, the town, through our consultants, have been meeting with Shenorock and Lincolndale associations. Your neighbors have been coming out routinely and meeting with this group.
Yes, we
to
have.
discuss.
We've been to the last two. We've been to the last two Lincolndale annual meetings, and made presentations. And we've had, I don't know, Ken, how many meetings have you had with the Lake Association? We did 2018 and 2019. We've done it 2 times to Lake Lincolndale, 2 times. In Shenorock, we've been meeting in Shenorock.
Oh, yeah?
We had a public informational session on August 20th, for example.
Oh.
Right? And we've been meeting with representatives of the community since 2017.
All right, we're gonna conduct this in a proper manner.
Let me continue.
Mrs. Luciano is at the mic. We're not gonna have cross conversations. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so the system that was put in down at Shenorock Lake, how much did that cost?
We received an $867,000 grant. We didn't spend all that. We wound up coming up with a more economical solution. So the final numbers were around $500,000 in that ballpark. I don't have the
So-
final
But it was a
numbers in front of me. Excuse me?
But
It was a grant. That didn't cost anybody anything.
Okay.
We did that entirely with
Okay.
other people's money
Okay.
to
I'm just-
improve the lake for everybody's for the
Okay.
neighborhood's benefit.
Okay, so 9 years ago, we asked for an aeration system to be put in at the lake, which would have cost at the time about $85,000. We asked for the lake to be cleaned up, and nothing's been done since. A retention pond could have been built to catch road runoff, but according to Lincolndale, their retention pond doesn't even get maintained, so I guess it doesn't do any good to do it. We are spending more and more money over and over on these studies, and you have not done anything to help this lake. Back in 2011, the law took effect. The septic systems need to be inspected once every 5 years. And at one of your meetings back then, you had told us that you were going to hire someone to police those residents who have the failing septics. And from what I hear, that has not been done. You've been getting reports from the county showing who gets their septic pumped, but has anyone looked into those residents that haven't? Don't you think that that would help the polluting? It kills me to see people walk their dogs around the lake and do not pick up after them. That gets washed into the lake as well. My husband mentioned why the estimated costs were not printed, and I've already spoken about that. I took care of that. It's out on the website, somerssewers.com. Who owns the lake and 9 acres now?
The town.
Well,
No.
the town owns that now because the association
Was defunct,
was
I know.
defunct, right?
Mhm, okay, I'm just,
And I would also, while I'm speaking, I just want to make sure that the residents understand, you referenced that nothing was done to try to improve the lake. There was a quite public process around forming a community, a lake, park district
Park
many years
district.
ago,
Yeah.
which was geared
years
directly
ago.
towards that purpose. And I remember, some of the folks who came up and
yes,
spoke in
we
opposition to that.
asked for an aeration system, we asked,
But in the end, that project was stopped by
Yes.
the residents. And that's why it didn't happen. It wasn't because the town was not willing to do that. It was because the residents
didn't want to pay.
didn't want to pay.
For $1 million beach, by the way. It was for $1 million beach. We wanted to clean up the lake. We
And
didn't want a
dredge
$1
the
million
lake.
beach.
And dredge the lake and
Okay,
put
so
in other
I'm gonna get
stormwater improvements.
Yep, I'm going to get to all that. So, so my next question is, I'd like to know if there are plans to dredge the lake and clean up 9 acres. And if so, who's going to pay for that?
Do you want me
Because
to answer every one of these questions? I mean, I'm happy to answer. Okay.
No, this is a public hearing on the sewer district number 2.
Yeah. One of the things I will say in relation to the sewer district, there is grant monies available under the Water Quality Improvement Program through the state to dredge, for dredging. However, you are only eligible for that money if all upgrading improvements have been completed, including stormwater and sewage. So part of these projects lead us to having an ability to be able to apply for grant money for dredging, to not have that be a cost borne by the residents.
Okay, so I pulled the reports from 5 years ago, and we had the $10 million earmarked to clean Lake Shenorock since about 1994.
Eight.
Okay?
8.
Sorry, it was 8?
98.
Okay, 98. If I'm not mistaken, none of that money has been used for it, but now you want to use that $10 million for Lincolndale as well. So the $10 million that was earmarked for Lake Shenorock is now going to be split for Phase 1 between Shenorock and Lincolndale. Correct?
Yes, correct.
So now Phase 1 people are going to get it for free, and the rest of us have to pay. So now I would...
I've heard you say that a couple of times. I just want to make sure that we're making sure that we're speaking in facts here, which is Phase 1 people do not have any borrowing when they get connected. But as soon as we borrow for the first house in Phase 2, that borrowing gets
Then it
layered
kicks
onto
in.
the Phase 1 people as well. So to say that they're getting it for free is not really accurate.
Okay, okay. So in May of 2015, in your report, talking about the lake evaluation beach formation that we talked about when they were looking at doing the park district, an investigation of the lake sediment and water quality completed as part of this report indicates the presence of substances indicative of anthropogenic or whatever, human-generated contamination to Lake Shenorock. Although recognized as an impaired water body, the lake is categorized as swimmable by the New York State DEC. The proposed beach development activities including dredging, engineered controls for stormwater, and aeration system to improve the lake quality for recreational use. So we could jump in that lake today, I guess, and go swimming. The beach, however, the water contained elevated phosphorus concentrations. Okay, so sediment was evaluated by collecting 5 samples from the proposed beach area and behind the outlet dam. The limited sediment data indicates the presence of common constituents from stormwater runoff in suburban areas like pesticides. Okay, not septic. So they also came up with 3 options. A community maintenance and education, which would have cost us $535,000, which includes stormwater pipe inspection and repair of illicit connections, annual stormwater system flushing, public education, and an outreach program. Option 2, lake rehabilitation would have cost $1 million to dredge and remove sediment from Lake Shenorock for disposal at the 9-acre parcel and remediation of 9-acre parcel. Option 3, implement septic maintenance and repair program for $8,500,000. That would have included septic maintenance and repair program for entire Lake Shenorock community. Funding, level to be determined, partial or full funding for septic repairs, funds available to all properties on an as-needed basis. Why aren't we looking into doing that with our $10 million that was earmarked for Lake Shenorock?
I think you're reading from an old report, correct?
2015,
Right.
your report.
This evening, we're here to talk about
I'm
the sewer
talking about
district.
options that we have, okay? I know the town is making the decision for us on what we should do. It's not going up for a resident vote, okay? But here is an option for $8.5 million, which our $10 million would cover. And that's not an option here
Well,
tonight.
as town engineer mentioned, tonight's public hearing, our third public hearing on sewer district number 2.
And I'm speaking about it. The last study that you had done, you wanted Shenorock and Horton residents to pay $500,000 to dredge the lake and the $2.6 million to clean up the 9 acres. You already mentioned at the last meeting that you would like to see people swim in the lake. So it makes us wonder what other costs you will have in store for us down the pike. Living here is getting more and more expensive, and Lincolndale and Shenorock were some of the places people came because it was reasonable. You want to change the look of both communities by allowing people to expand and put up bigger homes on these small parcels and then raise their taxes, because we all know that's how it works. You want to get more tax revenue from us. Is that what is behind this all? Because if it was about cleaning up the lake, you would have done something with the money a long time ago. You said you were going to move the line to include 3 residents, so we would like the line moved so that Walker Drive residents are not included. We are all lots larger than our 10 lots and have no issues with our septics and don't want sewer. And the 4 houses on the end of our street are not included, and neither is Walker Lane or people on Lakeview. When I went on to look at the agenda, there was like over 100 pages attached to the agenda. And I'm looking for my papers. Okay, so I would like to know about this comptroller letter that you have addressed to them, and why this is attached in our agenda, and what is the purpose of this exactly, because it's dated for today, and I think people want to understand what this is about.
That's the application to the state comptroller. If the town board takes action tonight to pass its resolutions, one of which is to establish the district, then the next step in the process is to petition the state comptroller for the review and approval of the district. Because we
Okay.
can't do anything without state comptroller approval.
All right, so last week my husband asked why this wasn't going up for a resident vote. Okay, so if you're voting on this tonight and the application's going right to comptroller, we can't get a resident vote then in here.
Can you
Yeah.
explain the petition
So then, yeah, you
process?
need to tell us how we can do that.
Yeah, that was asked last,
It was
asked
asked
and
last
answered
week.
last week.
Repeat
but
it.
Yes.
Certainly do
The
again.
petition process unfolds after tonight, assuming the town board acts, irrespective of the application to the state comptroller, which within it says that, tells the state comptroller that the whole period of time includes a permissive referendum period. There will be petitions available in the town clerk's office. If the residents want to bring on a vote of the proposed properties in the district, they're able to do so, and then the town will have to arrange for a vote. And we can't go any further with the process until that vote occurs.
Okay, so,
Those petitions are not available until September 19th.
The petitions are available once the notice of permissive referendum appears in the newspaper.
okay, so this petition that we can pick up next Thursday from the town clerk's office, what is this petition going to say? Because obviously it's already been typed up by by somebody.
That the residents who sign it, and
Mhm.
it has to be signed and acknowledged, so each signature has to be notarized,
No, it doesn't. Okay, so we spoke to a lawyer. What case law, let's see. So you're saying that, what case law states you have to have it notarized?
It's section probably 209 of town law of the state of New York that requires all signatures on the petition to be acknowledged.
Okay, it says to be acknowledged. Doesn't say has to be notarized. You have an option of having a witness.
No,
Well-
acknowledged as a deed to be recorded is what the law says, and that requires a notary. You can't record a deed unless it's notarized. This is the same process. So it has to be notarized.
All right, because we got paperwork from the Committee for Open Government that told us you do not need to have the signatures notarized for a petition. You can just have a witness. So you're telling me that they are lying?
I'm telling you what the law is
Yeah, I
because
wouldn't
I
put words in
practically
their
have it
mouth like
memorized
that.
after all this.
Okay, so...
So Roland, can a municipality be more restrictive?
More restrict? No, not on that. We have to follow town law.
Did you do
But
this?
said
you
town law. It's town law,
It's
not-
town law of the state of New York.
State.
You did, and you did,
York
did-
town law.
you went through this in Peach Lake, something similar, right?
Okay,
Yes,
You did this in Peach Lake?
I was the attorney for Peach Lake.
okay.
Okay.
Because I'm looking at the law that it says New York Consolidated Laws, election law, so...
Why risk it?
No, you're right, because you want to make sure it's done correctly. So these petitions are going to say that anybody in Shenorock or Lincolndale can sign this petition, whether
Anyone
they're
in the-
for
in the
or against
district.
it.
In the district.
One
In the
signature-
district.
One signature per property.
Okay, so, one signature per property. Okay, so, all right, so, okay, so all right, so it's one person per household, all right? If a resident owner lives in one house and rents another house out, how does that work?
It's on a separate parcel?
Yeah, totally different
Well,
parcel.
they-
They can
have
sign
two
for,
votes.
so they can sign for that household, even though they don't live in it?
Yes.
Okay.
They own it.
Property.
They're the
Okay,
property owner.
Okay, good. Okay, okay, all right, so somebody had said, all right, so I don't live in my house, but they rent it out, so
They get a vote.
they get a vote, but they don't...
property owner
The
gets the
property
vote.
does, but they don't live around here. If they're in
Doesn't matter.
Florida,
It's the
they
prop-
can,
No, but she's saying, how do they get the vote in?
how do they get the vote in? So I can send them a petition and they can notarize it and mail it?
They can notarize it in Florida or
Right,
wherever.
okay, all right, good. Okay, so now, if we pick these petitions up next Thursday, when do the petitions have to be back to you?
And the period commences, it's a 30-day permissive referendum period commencing tomorrow, provided that the publication occurs within 10 days, which if it's published next Thursday, it will have. So
Okay,
you'll
so we have 30 days from next Thursday?
30
No,
days
from-
for publication.
From today, from
What?
tomorrow?
No.
From tomorrow, okay, 30 days from the 13th, all right.
Should be October.
Okay, I think I'm done,
Well,
gentlemen.
you gotta ask how many, you wanna ask how many, votes do you need, signatures you need?
How many
Yeah, I
sig-
know, I already
tell-
know.
well-
Oh, sorry, I need 5%
Yes,
of the total 985
Yes.
residents, or 100,
Whichever is lower.
whichever comes first. So, yes, thank you very much.
I would suggest that you get more than the 5%.
I
though.
know, well, I'm not
Yes.
stupid, don't worry. Thank
I
you.
would never call you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Now, was there another, yes, sir?
417.
5%.
Thank you. I'm sure you had a lot of questions answered for those people that wrote your emails. Yes, sir.
Paul Funk, 1 Locust Drive in Lincolndale. I'm a licensed septic system contractor in Westchester, Putnam, and Dutchess. Thank you for taking 3/4 of my questions. Can't hear me? It's all good? How about now? We're all good? Good? All right. Paul Funk, 1 Locust Drive, Lincolndale. I'm a licensed septic system contractor for Putnam, Westchester, and Dutchess. A lot of things are leaving out here. How many lane miles of road do you plan on ripping up?
I don't know what the question is going to. We're going to have to rip up everywhere there's a pipe. You can see where the pipes are.
You're going to lay your mains in the street, are you not?
Correct.
How many miles of road are you going to disturb to do that?
Can you just proceed? I don't understand how that's relevant.
You're going to dig up the asphalt. you're gonna
Correct.
Put the pipe underneath it. Now the road's going to be messed up. You're going to need to repave.
Correct.
Okay.
That's in the
How many
cost.
miles? Is it in the cost? Because I didn't see it.
No, the trench repair is in. We've been coordinating with the highway department so that they can sequence their paving activities with the.
So those costs are not in here. That will
trench
fall on the
repair.
highway department budget to repave all the streets.
If you want, we can layer that on the district and have everybody pay.
Well, it'd
but
be
I
nice
think it's
because
more
everybody would be
appropriate.
fully informed at that point.
No, the way that this is traditionally done is we're going to be digging up the road. We're going to put a pipe in the road. We're going to patch that, and then
Mm-hmm.
it will come part of the normal cycle of repaving done by the
Okay, I
town.
do this all the time. When you patch the road, it settles. There's never 100% compaction. There's always a mess. The roads need to be repaved to bring them back to their current condition, and some of them aren't that good to begin with.
And we're coordinating with the highway department to make sure that
So you
those
don't
condi-
have a number for that in there.
It's not needed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we do this in 2 stages, right?
So you don't have a number. That's pretty much where we're at.
We're not. No, this should
Okay.
be clear. We are not. We are not going to require the district to encumber the costs of paving all the roads in Shenorock. That is going to be done through the highway department. Excuse me?
Or Lincolndale.
Or Lincoln.
Or Lincolndale. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. If we did what you said, these numbers would be much bigger, right? So we're going to do that as part of the
absolutely.
normal cycle that is done by the town. So all of those costs that are benefiting the community are being layered across the entire town, right? I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
So in other words, we're going to rip up those roads to do the work that we need to do, but we're not going to rehab them back to the condition that they were in before.
Those are your words, not mine. What I said
Well,
was
those are the-
we will be repairing the trench. There's a temporary, when then you wait for it to settle, and then a permanent that comes in on top of that.
Okay.
That's all included in the budget.
Okay. Got to go through my notes here because somebody took most of my stuff. Next door, Putnam County. Not last year, the year before, for a 5-year period, the DEP offered funding to all homeowners whose systems were failed to put new systems in. Did we look into that here before we go ripping the town apart?
We have looked at all the different programs that are available within the county. That program that you're referring to is not something that is leverageable here in
Okay.
this scenario.
How many systems do you figure are failed in Shenrock and Lincolndale?
That we know about?
Yeah.
Well, we've done those studies. I don't have the number off the top of my head. Those studies were done years ago. There's a routine. We heard of somebody spending $40,000 tonight repairing a septic. That's what we're. A brand new install, excuse me, of a new septic. Those are the kind of costs that we're trying to prevent every resident from having to pay by repairing all of their septics, by doing a project like this. Because over time, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And especially in certain lower lying areas, that when is going to come quicker than other places.
720 homes in Shenrock?
650.
All right, well, my number's higher, so we're going to go with it. 430 homes in Lincolndale?
Total homes are 980.
All right, well, I have 1,150, so we're going to use my number. And we're going to say 25% of them systems have failed and need to be replaced. They spent $40,000 to have their system fixed. I went with $50,000. We take those 300 homes, which is 25%. At $50,000 apiece is $15 million. Who's getting here? You're spending so much money for something that could be fixed for a lesser amount.
I guess what I'm saying is there will be 100% of the septics that fail at some point in time. So I don't think your math is accurate. I think
I'm saying right now, 25% of systems are failed. You're supposed to maintain your system as a responsible homeowner. That's part of maintaining your system. The system's failed, you go out, you fix it.
Okay, that's
So
true.
if we're gonna spend 50,000, they spent 40 to replace their whole system. I'm giving you 50. I'm using 25% of the homes right
What
now.
about the other
We're only at 50.
75%? What about, are we just leaving out the other 75% of the people? Just
At some
let me just
time, they're
use
gonna
your
fail.
let me just use your math for a second, right?
Go ahead.
So we're talking about, you're suggesting we borrow $15 million to do this, because we won't get money, the $10 million from the county to do that, right?
Understandable.
We're borrowing $15 million to do the project we're talking about. And everybody gets sewer, not just the 25%, but 100%.
Okay, so then let's throw
For
the other
same
75% of my
for the
numbers.
same number.
Now we're at 60 million, lower than your number, and everybody's got a brand new one.
on,
Soup to nuts.
on what kind of soils, and at what point is that going to fail in the
Bank
future?
run, tanks, linear footage of fields. Now you're going to go back to
You
our-
have an opinion. I'm not going to
Okay,
debate
right,
you
I
on
have an
this. I
opinion.
mean, you
That's
have
fine.
your opinion. I have
That's good.
my knowledge as a professional engineer.
Sure.
So
It's all good. You can keep putting me down. It's okay. We're all going back to R10 zoning. Does that mean my 1 acre lot I can put 3 more homes on?
We're not changing the zoning.
the
But
zoning
it's
is,
R10 zoning. I live in an R10 zone. I have a 1 acre lot.
we're not changing any zoning laws. So if you have an opportunity through that zoning law to facilitate a lot that will meet code, there's nothing that will prevent you from doing that.
Oh, sorry, I'll lean forward next.
So we're going to increase the home count. We're going to eliminate the bedroom count. So we're going to increase the traffic flow. There's a lot of other stuff here you guys haven't addressed, and I think you need to.
About the bedrock, there's a lot of bedrock.
Sir, you'll have an opportunity to speak.
Just something to ponder.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Deirdre Cardona, 1 Overhill Road, entrance to Shannarock. I was actually on my couch with my husband in my nightgown, and I said I had to get out of the house. And the woman who was thoroughly knowledgeable, I appreciate your spirit, I appreciate your energy, but I have to say thank you for trying to take Shannarock and Somers out of the Stone Age. Myself and many people I know are thrilled at the aspect and the hopeful prospect that sewers will be brought to our town. Our land needs it. I have just under an acre, so it's not a matter of when or if. It's not a problem necessarily, but maintaining a sewer isn't the situation. Lower taxes, we don't have lower taxes in Somers. We pay for garbage. We don't have a pool. We don't have bulk pickup. There's a lot that we have to pay out of pocket. So this lower taxes nonsense is crazy. Shannarock and Lincolndale should be part of Somers. We should be proud of where we live and the community we live in. And I am grateful that finally we are here at this point. We should have been here a long time ago. We were fortunate, my husband and I were fortunate to tie into the water system when the preserves were put in. Our tax money, our dollar money that was quoted to us, that was going to be an average and hopefully wouldn't change, has not changed. Every quarter, it's the same penny. So don't think that the numbers that people are seemingly, as you're coming across, throwing out at you are going to be this gotcha business. It's degrading to me that the residents in my town are coming across as though our town representatives are playing a gotcha game. Now, not everybody should have been doing the things that maybe kept the lake preserved. We moved in 23 years ago. At that point, the lake wasn't even swimmable. Let's not talk about dogs pooping. Let's talk about septicide. Let's talk about, yes, maybe climate change. Let's just talk about that the land is different now. And we live differently. We can talk about plastics. I mean, we all see it in the news. But thank you so much for being respectable citizens. Let's all be respectable and reminded that I think our town board is working for the betterment of Somers and Upper Westchester County, not for the lesser. And I know many people that feel this way. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. That's our sentiment, exactly. Other yes, sir. Yep.
How you doing? I'm Joseph Idich at 7 Ross Drive, Phase 2. Yeah.
You got your designation.
I've heard a bunch of people talking. I've been to just one or two meetings and saw some of the YouTube videos and some of the points with negative and positive, great points, right? I'm for sewers. I think it's a great thing. I'm just worried that we're doing this for the lake, right? And for future save of our land and water and all that stuff, right? What if Phase 2 really doesn't happen, right? Then is this all just all academic? Then I keep my septic anyway. I just put one in. It cost me $12,000. So tell me, you've been doing this a long time, like you mentioned earlier. Is Phase 2 going to happen in the next 5 years? In the next 25 years?
So
I know we're doing with grants, and that's all, scary stuff. I don't believe it. So I'm a little skeptical.
So I obviously can't tell you exactly when this is all going to happen, right? I would be misleading you if I did. What I will tell you is what we're doing. I know we're meeting with the EFC on Monday to talk about how to arrange to get not only $3 million in this round, but another $12.5 million in next year's round.
But you've also been speaking with people earlier. What are those conversations like? What's your feedback from them? Are they like, you know what, we're going to write you a check tomorrow?
Well,
and why don't they believe that we're going to do this completely? We're not going to lie to them and say we're just doing Phase 1 and we're going to keep the money and run.
Well, there's two pieces. If you're going towards the just show progress comment, right? So there's two buckets of money. There's the grant money that we've talked about. That's going to be a competitive program. The town has a full-time grant consultant that we're working with. They're actually coming into town on October 17th, where we're going to be laying out the entire financial plan on how we're going to attack that $38 million in granular detail. We have a conceptual plan now. We're going to start getting granular detail on that on October 17th. That becomes the grant aspects. There's also the New York City DEP. Rick and I were at a meeting with the county executive, and the county executive solicited from all of the supervisors in northern Westchester what the sewer needs were. And there was a pretty big number, as you might imagine. I don't know, Rick, 165 million or something like that, I think it was. It was a very big number from around these areas. And basically what the county executive has advised is, hey, we got to spend down these $10 million allocations that we have. Once that money is gone, there will be another negotiation initiated with the DEP to get more money too. So we're hitting at this from every angle, not just the grant angle, but the DEP angle. You know, what I will tell you is this will not be, I can confidently tell you, this will not be the last phase that is done. I think that the $12.5 million from the EFC is our application is very strong for that, especially as we move forward. So I would anticipate the next phase being a pretty sizable phase with that $12.5 million, probably some borrowing there and maybe some additional money from the DEP. We still got to work on that.
So for past experiences, what time frame? Truthfully, honestly, 10 years, 15, 20?
I just know whatever I tell you.
Some residents might move out or pass away before that happens.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I'm 50, right? I don't plan on being in General for another 20, 30 years.
Yeah,
I might move down to Florida. But my point is, I want to spend for something I don't have.
Here's what it comes down to. I think that we'll have...
I got a brand new septic. It'll last 40 years.
I think we'll...
So I don't care either way.
I think within the next...
At this point.
I think within the next 3 to 5 years, we'll have certainty as to how the overall.
So
time.
5 years just to get a 75% good feel. I'm just letting you know.
Keep in mind.
20 years from now.
Keep in mind until you
20 years.
Keep in mind until you're connected, sir. All you're paying is the buy-in fee. For that, you do get septic pump out.
I get it, but I'm still losing money in the long run.
Yeah,
I lose money in the long run because 184 times 3 is less than 300. Is more than $300.
Right.
So do 20 years.
Right.
I pay for something I didn't have. I pay for these guys around the lake to have free septic and free sewers. So some people got a point.
That's obviously what we're trying. That is not the intent of what we're trying to.
I know. I'm not saying it is, but I think it's bad planning.
Well, let me just
Right?
respond.
It's almost like making a 2-lane highway, knowing the population is going to triple. You know the highway's going to get bigger. So the foresight is terrible here, right?
No. Let me just clarify something for you, right? Which is, when Steve went through and talked about the political hurdle that was cleared. Now is the time to get these communities into the sewer district. If we do not proceed with this now, it is unlikely that this will ever happen in the future.
Yeah, but you know what? Phase 1 might be the only thing happening. Possibly, right?
That's what we're telling you, is
Yeah.
that every year, whatever available funding from federal, state, we are going after those funds.
No, I get it. I understand. And I could be on a diet, but I might not lose weight.
That's on you.
No, you're my point here. We're trusting that this is going to happen. And obviously, everybody wants to happen in the next 10 years, not 30.
I don't think we're talking 30.
Because then I'll be 80.
I don't think we're
And I
talking
don't,
30.
I don't want to eat a sewer at 80.
Well, you stick to that diet, you will make it.
All right, maybe 82, right? All right,
And
so
beyond, and beyond.
I appreciate your comment. There's obviously, we're going to work very diligently to get this project done in as short a period of time as we can.
All right, well, thank you.
If I can add one thing for you, when you said the purpose of this is to clean the lake,
Yeah.
the purpose of the 10 million is from DEP, which is in charge of New York City water supply, for all the people who take water from the water supply, is to protect that in a lot of areas, this being one of those areas. What they did is say, well, we'll give you money, and you can leverage that to help your town while you clean the water for everyone who draws from that, which could be Somers, Yorktown, obviously New York City. So hopefully it's a win for the city and a win for the local town, because you get a better lake while they get better drinking water.
So
That's
quick
the
question, real
idea.
quick. DEP gave us the 10 million when? 98, right?
Well,
That's 20 years ago?
DEP allocated the money as part of the MOU in 98. It was assigned to the town by the Northern Westchester Watershed Committee at the first time in 2006.
Right.
2006.
Okay.
And then reaffirmed in 2016 and 2019. It still requires an action of the Board of Legislators for it to be physically put in Somers' account.
Right. But
That's
that
gonna be
money was to fix the lake.
No, that money was for sewers.
Oh, for sewers.
That money was for sewers.
So I'm assuming back then we probably could have done this for 10 million? All of Shedrock?
I didn't estimate that, so I don't know what that 10 million
Like,
is based on.
so I'm saying foresight,
My
right?
understanding is that
Why wasn't it?
My understanding that it was a.
But I didn't live there back then. I just moved in.
My understanding is the 10 million. There was $68 million established, and the $10 million for 5 community was not based on an estimate. It was just based on let's get some money into these 5 areas.
Right. Why don't we go back to DEP and get more money?
That's what I said. That our goal is to do.
Well, where are they? Bring them to the meeting here so they can hear us. Where's highway? Who's going to pay for the paving like that guy mentioned earlier? Why isn't highway here?
Highway's very much coordinated. I met with them last week.
That's
to
big
talk
money,
about
too.
this.
Took me 3 years just to get a swale in front of my house. Can you imagine the whole... And they just repaved Shedrock.
In certain areas.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
your comment.
No, I'm done.
Sir?
Another tall guy.
Go high enough? Okay. Keith Schmidt, 20 Nymph Drive. Been here since 1985, so I've gone through all this. I'm also was a past lake management chair for Lake Lincolndale for 15 years. Very familiar with stormwater runoff, very familiar with the sewer system, very familiar with septic systems. So I'll give you a bottom line right now. This is actually a good thing for us, even with the points against it. But the point is, right now, my house is actually right there in the pipeline. So I'm going to be affected, whatever the case is, in phase 1, right? Because the first phase is the pipeline goes right is constructed first. So I'm going to be definitely affected for everything for phase 1, but I'm not going to get any benefits except having my road torn up. The lake Lincolndale right now is the first year it's had blue algae. One of the problems with blue algae is the fact that it's not just effluent, it's also sediments and roadway runoff. One of the problems I see here at the board is because Shenrock has already received a grant for a road, for the culverts and for the road repairs, right? And for the retention basins. Lincolndale has not. Lincolndale basically has Daisy Drive and essentially, which are straightaways going into Flower 2, thank you, which are straightaways going into the lake. And huge amounts of sediment are deposited there, and nothing's been cleaned out. So I've been looking at this for 30 years, and it's been a problem there. But my understanding now is if we don't do one thing, we don't do septic, or we don't do sewage first, then we can't apply for grants to do other things. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's as it relates to the dredging. But stormwater, we actually looked at a stormwater grant. I walked the entire community. I walked Lincolndale. I looked at all the pipe discharges, and we started looking at
This year?
this year, in April of this year, to formulate a project that mirrors what we did in Shenorock, which would be to put units, I'll just call them, but they're treatment units to remove all the things you talked about coming off the roads at the bottom of the hill. We looked at doing that in Lincolndale this year and applying for a grant. We chose not to apply this year under that program because, first of all, they changed some of the rules that we were given, that they told us, and we liked the system that we did in Shenorock, and they said that next year the rules will be revisited, and we're advocating to go back into that. So my point is I would anticipate that we will be applying for a stormwater grant for Lincolndale next year.
Okay, so my simpleton way of thinking, we can't really go do anything else unless we have the sewage systems in place.
It's part of that holistic approach
Yeah,
to keep it delayed.
that's the main structure. So once we start with that, then we get more money, then we basically apply for more grants, do more construction, and it's kind of a leapfrog kind of a thing. Is that
Correct.
my understanding?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, and just by the way, there are some stormwater retrofits along Lovell and Lake Drive that already been installed.
But when's the last time they're cleaned out?
Well, one of them is the towns, and that's on our hit list. One of those is the lake's responsibility.
And that's an issue because there's 120 homeowners, homes which are responsible for cleaning out a system which basically benefits the entire lake and the entire lake community. So that's an issue, and I would like to discuss it offline, but definitely something to talk about for sure. But the town, though, on Lovell Street should be addressed.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been addressed in 3 years, and I think it needs to be addressed.
You're right.
We'll take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Rena Riccardi, and I live in Lake Lincolndale on Juniper Drive. This is new to me. I only found out last week about the whole process. So where do you get a copy of the report that tells you what you're supposed to, like what phase you're in and how much you're paying? I do have 2 lots. That was, so there's a home only on one, and then there's a second lot. So does that mean that I'm paying the fee twice because I have 2 lots? I mean, so there's a number of questions.
Is
I
it a
have.
vacant parcel?
Yeah. It's,
So right now, we are not including the vacant parcels in the calculation, so you are not paying twice.
Okay, that's good news.
But if you chose to apply to make that a developable lot, there will be a process for you to get in, and then you would have to basically bear the connection yourself, so there's additional cost that you'd have to pick up to do that. But
I'm
you
not sure
don't
if
pay
the
all these,
zoning-
you're not paying
Yeah.
twice if you
Okay.
choose not to do anything.
I don't even know if the zoning would allow, because it's maybe a quarter of an acre.
And your other
so-
question was, the town website has the plan map and report on it.
So it's all on there where
Correct.
the pipe will go and what
Correct.
phase. But Lincolndale is definitely after Shenorock.
No, these are being done together.
Oh,
What
it'll
you
be
see
done.
up there in green on the map, that's all going to be done, as Ken was saying, by the end of 2021, that'll all be done.
So this is
Lincolndale.
Lovell?
No, Lovell is on the, let me see. Yes, right there, yeah?
That's Lovell.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
And did you give your address?
It's 2 and 4 Juniper Drive, which is the corner of Lovell and, I'm right on the corner.
And your name again, I'm sorry?
And I think I have that drain that you're talking about that's controlled by the town right on my driveway. Yeah.
To be cleaned out.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, if you haven't been to any of these hearings, why don't you take my copy? It has a small map and,
Is this,
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it.
no, it's not a good one?
I don't know.
Do you have a better one?
Probably
I think
not.
it's the same thing.
It's the same.
Oh, all right. then I-
Okay, you got what I got.
Thank you.
You bet.
And the costs are all online,
I
under the map plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I am George Lux. Was here last week just to reiterate what Keith said. The town did put in these retention ponds years ago, and we've been after them for 4 or 5 years to clean them out, and to no avail. Again, we were told that like I said last week, you have no heavy equipment operators. I know a lot of those guys, and I think maybe it's an issue of money is why we can't get them cleaned out. Secondly,
Well, at least the one retention pond that's owned by the town to maintain.
Correct.
That's on our list.
Yes.
After your comments last
I'm
week.
talking about the ones at the end of Myrtle, Larch, Orange, and Flower that the town put in. There's, if you go down on the north side of the lake, all of those roads that come down the lake, the town made ponds with riprap that are supposed to be maintained. As well as across the street from the beach, there's a catch basin that the town's been for 2-3 years cleaning out for us. It's underwater.
I know that thing silts up.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with that one.
Yes. So the other issue is, and it's purely personal for me, I grew up in Lake Lincolndale, and I remember when we used to have ice carnivals in Shedrock, Lake Lincolndale, and Purdy's, and they were a big thing in the 60s, early 60s and 70s. And I understand the town is doing this to try to help the lakes, but what I don't understand is, obviously, Shedrock, I don't know when the last year they could swim in that water. Why some of that money, that $10 million you were talking about, wasn't put toward the stormwater runoff, which I'm not an engineer and I'm not a water quality expert. I grew up at the lake. I walk around it frequently. I'm sure if you saw it when you went in April there, you saw that green water coming down some of those roads. Why wasn't some of that money spent 10 years ago to mitigate
Well,
that stormwater
Right, as
runoff?
previously mentioned, we did try to set up a park district in Shedrock.
Shedrock, correct.
Which would have addressed that, albeit not in Lincolndale at that point. So there have been efforts on the town level to utilize this $10 million.
But why?
The 10 million,
I mean,
though, wait, the 10 million, though, is earmarked for wastewater. It's not for any other purpose. It's
Correct.
only for wastewater. It's only for sewers.
Right. But I mean, obviously, you did that work at Shedrock, and I don't begrudge Shedrock because I grew up with a lot of them. And one of the last bastions of blue-collar workers there is in Somers, Lincolndale, and I guess Purdy's would be the three. But obviously, you put all of that stormwater management over there, but why? They still can't swim. I don't think they eat fish out of there. You could probably walk across it in the wintertime and late summer, but I don't really know why that wasn't applied to Lincolndale first, where that's an active lake and it's used year-round. I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm just wondering why that, to me, it seems like, again, like I mentioned last week, you weren't here, but you seem to be doing this ass backwards, excuse my language, but to me, the stormwater is the biggest issue with the lake. Anybody that walks around it, that's lived there, that knows the lake, it's the stormwater. Obviously, some of it may be sewage. You're the expert at that. I'm not, but I'm opposed to it, and I'm going to be very honest. It's for selfish reasons. I think there was a number thrown around. There were 400 lots, I guess, between Lincolndale and Shedrock. Do you know how many of those are in Lincolndale?
The number of homes that we're talking about? That
Lots. I think somebody said last week, unless I'm mistaken, that there was, I think it was 400,
It's in the-
400
It's like
lots
600 and
between.
400 or something
Yeah.
divided, yeah.
I
985.
really don't want to see all of those lots that now, okay, we keep saying we're not changing the zoning. You're not, but.
Yeah.
Are you talking about
but-
vacant lots?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
you're talking
sorry.
about vacant lots.
Vacant
Oh,
lots.
okay.
About 400.
Remember, they're not in the sewer district. The vacant lots.
No,
are
I
not in the sewer
understand that.
district.
And current zoning, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think in layman's terms is you got to be somewhere like 100 feet away from a septic to a well, correct?
Well, that's
Unless it's
if you
on a
have
certain
That's
grade.
if you have a septic, right? So
Well, everybody in Lincolndale does. So I'm talking about these empty lots, like, for instance, I know two of the builders in town were looking at one years ago, and the reason why they couldn't build there was because of where somebody's fields was
Right.
and where so
when
we-
there's a pipe in the street, that situation changes, right?
well, that's what I'm worried about.
Yes.
Obviously, so.
But
in
but
Lincoln-
remember, the situation changes, but they're not in the district. They have to petition to get in the district.
That's all a formality to me. What I'm concerned about is I grew up in Lake Lincolndale, and we don't have house on top of house on top of house. We all got to be honest. That's going to be a possibility when you bring in sewers, correct?
I think that people are no longer going to be septic limited. I can't predict how people are
All
going to
right,
build their
well,
homes.
I mean, it's not a stretch of the imagination to imagine in 20 years, all of these lots that were prohibited from being built years ago because they were too close to septic or wells are going to be built. That's not a stretch of anybody in this room's imagination. That's one of the selfish reasons why I don't want the sewers.
And George,
the-
there's 200 in Lincolndale and 126 in
Okay,
Shenandoah.
so we could potentially have 200 houses built in the lake. Whether it happens or not,
Correct.
none of us know. But that's one of my selfish reasons why I don't want it. And number two is I got a kid out of college and one going in. When she gets out, I have a third one. I'm stretched thin, I got to tell you. $1,200, maybe if you're an attorney or an engineer, isn't a lot of money. To me, that's a lot of money. It's cheaper for me to pump my septic out. What is it, every 5 years by law, correct?
Yes.
It's $300 every 5 years. I can afford that. I did my septic when I bought the house. I'm going to be on the balls of my, you know what, if this goes through. And I don't want to see the houses built. And the last reason is there is no guarantee in this world that we're going to get, okay, you got the funding for the first phase. We're hoping that we get funding for the second phase. And you got this third issue or the stormwater, which I keep insisting, again, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a water quality expert, it's the stormwater. I grew up there.
Stormwater is a big issue. There's no question about that. And like I
Right.
said, we're pursuing those grants.
I would
that's gonna
rather
happen.
see, I'd be a lot happier if you're going to bring the sewers in, if you say we're going to take care of the stormwater first, and then we're going to seek funding for the sewers.
Yeah.
I'd be a lot happier if you did that.
So would we. But that $10 million for sewer districts is what's there now.
Well, that was the
Either
question.
we seize the
Right.
opportunity or we lose the opportunity. And
Right.
that's what the public hearing
But-
and the permissive referendum, if it gets to that, will be about.
I have one other question with that permissive referendum. You stated it was 290? 290 what, E or A?
No, the law he's stating is not there, I don't
Correct. How does it, what does that petition for the referendum fall under?
209
209.
of
But
town
then
law.
I was trying to Google that. Is it 209A or 209B or? Because I was
Now
under
you're
the-
testing me.
I thought.
He came up with 209. Come on.
I think it's E.
What's the question about it?
Try E.
Do you have a
I just think it's a little restrictive that, I think you said last week, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I think you said it was 5%
Yes.
or 100.
Or 100,
Yeah.
right.
Or-
That just seems a little restrictive that 100 people got to run into the townhouse. and get
5%
something
is less
notarized.
than
Or
100.
the lesser.
Or okay, let's just say 50. I mean, how come you can't?
They're not coming to the townhouse to sign it and get it notarized. You're taking it yourselves.
And then that each one of those 50
I just
people
wanted
got to
to
get it notarized, right?
Because
Yeah.
I wasn't aware that I thought it followed Town Code 91, general election, because I Googled something. Somebody told me this the
All
other
laid
day.
out in 209.
209? 209 what? Do you remember?
I
Can you
209.
do some homework for me and maybe give me a jingle on the code red? All right, thank you.
Thank you, George. I see a hand in the back, and then this gentleman here.
Jingle on code red.
George?
Yep.
I just have two clarifications. Okay. Two clarifications. Lisa Healy, 7 Magnolia Drive, Lincolndale. For the hookups, the individual hookups, and this is a selfish question, you're going to pay for the pipe from the street onto my property, to the back of my property that is on a downgrade, install the pump to push it up to the sewer,
Yes.
all at your cost.
Yes.
our cost. I'll be paying for it in the end. What if I'm built on bedrock and you can't get through the front of my property to the back? And what if my well sits in the front of my property and I have a very narrow property? So I may not have the appropriate measurements.
yeah.
What happens in that case?
So when we get into detailed design, we're obviously getting to the granular level of looking at property by property. If the situations that you have identified of both the rock and the well prevent us from getting in, we will seek to other options, right? Is there a property behind you that we can
No.
get an easement from? Is there a property next door that we can get
They're
an
in the
easement
same
from?
position.
Right. So that all being said, we are carrying what I think a pretty generous amount of money per home in our budget
Okay.
to connect, which I do not believe that we will spend on every single home, but we might
Okay.
spend more in that instance, right? So we recognize, I remember somebody said to me at one of these hearings, something like, they call it Shenorock for a reason. If you lived here, you would know.
right.
And I had to remind them, yeah, I do live here, and I do know that. And we have carried a pretty healthy budget for rock removal. And I heard another gentleman mention rock at some point over here before. And we have a pretty healthy budget for rock removal. We've looked at things like the sewer the water installation records, the stormwater installation records, to understand where we might find rock and where we might not.
Well,
So-
I
so
see the
we've been
rock in
thoughtful
my
about that.
basement because
Right.
it goes like that.
We would probably have to chip. If everything you suggest is the case, we would likely have to chip through that rock.
Okay.
We wouldn't leave you
less-
out of the district as a result, I promise.
Less selfish. I have been on the board for Lake Lincolndale, the association, and just this is an aside. 2 annual meetings ago, I was there, you were not. This summer, I was not at the meeting. I understand you were there. So it may not have been the summer annual meeting you were
Wasn't-
at. So I just want to.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe it was. I know I was at an annual
I just-
meeting in Lincolndale
year.
in 2018 and in 2019.
Well,
Both
it
Ken and
wasn't the summer annual meeting, so.
Maybe it was
In
the spring.
terms of the lake and improving the lake, you have said, once we have sewers, we'll be able to make those lake improvements, i.e. dredging, if need be. However, we have been told that we are not to make any improvements on our lake until we bring our dam to a certain level, as it's classified right now, and it's overclassified. We're not able to petition to get it. We just took out a loan to have work done on the dam to try to have it reclassified. So I don't know if doing the sewers is going to allow us to improve our lake, because we also have these dam issues. Do you know about these issues we
Yeah.
have with the DEP and the dam? And
we've actually worked with, I think it's Mike O'Keefe.
yeah,
We've worked with Mike to look for ways that we could help the community with getting funding for the dam. One of the challenges with Lincolndale is it's still privately owned, right? That's a very distinct difference between Lincolndale and Shenorock, is that Shenorock is a town-owned and Lincolndale is still
well,
private.
instead
So
of
public money-
of that, maybe you can help work with the DEP to get them to understand they've overclassified this dam and they should reclassify it, instead of us having to find funds to do things.
I think there is a process. I know there's a process around that, an
That's-
inundation study
yeah.
process. That's not just a phone call, right? There's a
But
process.
I'm just saying, like, we may get the sewers and still not be able to improve our lake, because there are other issues.
Right, but one of the things and that may be the case, right? What I'm saying is, that's not going to prevent us from doing the stormwater improvements that the
That
gentleman
would be
here was
great.
referencing.
But I agree, like, let's
keep in
do
mind, we-
things in order. The stormwater is a to us.
It's a
as-
priority to us too. The $10 million was going to disappear otherwise, right? We have to move
But I
forward
know,
now.
like, just because something is on sale doesn't mean you have to go buy it if it's going to put you in a worse position. That's the other thing. Like, I feel like we're being pressured because we're going to lose this 10 million. Well, honestly, this 10 million means nothing right now. It has no value. So, it's just...
Thank you.
George, it's 209E, what you're asking.
Sir, you're...
And it's, I'm just going to read this real quick.
Go ahead. Okay.
And it basically says, a petition requesting a referendum shall be sufficient if signed and acknowledged or approved in the same manner as a deed to be recorded, which needs to be notarized. Yep.
Yeah, my name is Bob Cavino. I live on Walker Drive in Shenorock. Can these sewers back up in the house? Because I know they do. They have in other towns. Actually, it happened to my sister in Portchester, and it was nothing but a big mess. You get everybody else's stuff, and if it does, I guess my homeowner's insurance is going to cover that. So that means I have to have backup insurance. Correct?
I don't know about the backup insurance.
Well, that's, you get backup
the issue
insurance
of a
for
backup into a house is usually a function of very specific conditions that might happen, a flooding condition or other.
But you can't stop it. See, with a septic, it might back up a little if you use your washing machine, because it's happened to me. Comes up a little bit and it ends. So you just don't get a constant flow like you would if everybody's hooked up to the same pipe. And it happens. But what happened to me in December, and Mr. Morrissey knows, because I spoke to him about it, but the water line burst on our road, and I got hammered in my house because I have a pitch coming in, and it filled up my whole downstairs and went out the back slider because Joe Luciano was there. I wasn't home. And thank God he was there, and his brother and everybody else, and they did everything for me till I can get home an hour away. But it was nothing but a big mess. So I'm kind of tainted, the fact that I don't need to have problems with the sewer also. And, I'm fine with my septic. So I just want to let you know, council, I know I can't get off the list, but I'm just going to give you a copy of what I signed, that I don't want to be on it. Okay?
We have a...
Thank you very much.
To the town clerk.
Just be aware, though, that you still have to sign the petition. This isn't...
No,
this
I will.
isn't...
But I'm just giving this for the record.
Yeah, just so you know.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gavino.
Joe Luciano, 10 Walker Drive. I'm also going to give her, I want to be out of the district. A couple things I want to mention. You mentioned this is the town board and you, that this is for cleaning the lakes, correct? And this is for R10 zoning because of the high density, correct? Yes?
Yes, I mean, I've said that 5 times.
Last time I asked, you've got 4 streets in here that are in R10 zoning that are not on your map. And if you're going to go forward, then you really need to change your lines. Gentlemen, you have Woodland, right? I'll give you the names when I get back up to the mic.
Is he important? It's hard to stay.
Even in the streets, I thought I had 8 copies. Sorry.
I'll share.
I can make it today.
Check the people.
You proposed sewer in the R10 zone, right? You've left out Woodland Drive, Fairview Drive, Lakeside Drive, Horton Drive. You say you're protecting the lake. You're protecting the water that goes into the reservoir. Well, that's between the lake and the reservoir. It's a high water table. There's high density. So you want to include me? I don't want to be included. I don't have an R10 lot. You've eliminated 4 houses on my street. This is a burden for me and my family. You're talking about over $2,200. That's big money. My septic, a lot of money was spent when I built the house brand new. And, I think you left off Horton Estates because they pay higher taxes, just like I do. I want to be left off too. I think you should go through with phase 1 and then maybe you try to get other phases in, but don't form a district. Go for phase 1. You have 10 million. Why don't you give it a start? Shouldn't have to be a $63 million project. You should start, be reasonable, and then move on. You had years and you never did anything to control the stormwater going into the lakes. You never controlled people with their bad septics. And now you want the good people to pay a fortune because anybody with a small house or a lot that's on top of somebody else pays low taxes, and they're going to pay low to be in the sewer district. There's some houses that are going to pay under $400, and I'm going to pay $2,200. The numbers don't work. You just don't see that. This town has a tax problem already because your high houses aren't selling, and that's why you're going after Lincolndale and Shenorock. You're going after them because their taxes are low, and you need to bring up tax revenues. This has nothing to do with protecting the lakes. No. You've got empty lots. Okay, let me ask you this. Are you going to form a law to charge $25,000 to get into the sewer district? Because they're not going to have to build a septic. Septics cost money.
I'm not contemplating to increase taxes to generate revenue. We're just trying to increase the service here. I mean, you can portray it like that, but that's not what's in my mind.
I think you're looking to change the faces of both places. You're going to have bigger homes. You're going to have houses torn down, bigger homes going in.
But
that gives you bigger money to play with.
There'll be other benefits as well, right?
If you're looking to try to clean the lake, start with a smaller sewer district. And if you really are looking to clean the lake, there are septics underwater on Lakeview Drive and right in that vicinity, and you didn't include them in the district. So you said you walked. So if you walked, you know they're there.
Joe, just continue with your statements.
I'm done.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here for comment on formation of sewer district number 2?
All right.
Okay, seeing and hearing. No. Yes, sir. Right at the bell.
Right at the bell. 14 Tulip, Joseph Kaiko. I live right here. This is the proposed pump house. What is that?
No, it's a connection.
That's a connection point. There's an existing, you're in the preserves, Joe?
No, this is Lake Lincolndale.
Yeah. That where you just pointed,
This whole area constantly goes underwater. It turns into a lake.
where you pointed is in the preserves. That green dot is,
Listen, I know where my house is.
no.
Here's my house.
Oh, I thought you pointed to that green dot. You pointed to the green dot.
This goes totally uphill right here.
Yeah.
And this area right here goes completely underwater in the fall and in the spring. It turns into a lake and it's total mud. How are you gonna dig? What are you gonna do? Go under the stream?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a directional drill right now on Route 6. That's
Do you
quite,
know there's native brook trout right here?
we'll be going under that stream. We will not be digging up the stream. We'll go under the stream, just like we're doing at
How are you
Muscat.
gonna go under the stream and it's swamp?
It's a directional drill. We're doing it right now on Route 6 to go under the Mescoot River.
Okay. That sounds expensive.
Thank you.
Hi, Barbara Lloyd, 5 Olive Drive. I just wanted to know why the assessments it's based on the tax assessment. Why are the rates based on the tax assessment?
I mean, why are we setting this up ad valorem versus fee per house, right? I mean, there's two different ways to do it.
Exactly.
I mean, we chose to go that way. The county's money is always going to be ad valorem. We have no control over how the county does their piece, and that's how they're going to do their piece, right? If you look at the maintenance costs, it's the total maintenance cost. That is not ad valorem. That's total maintenance cost divided by the number of users, right? So the only other piece that we're talking about the town has control over is the debt service piece.
Which was the
The
first
de-
part or the second part?
No, there's three parts. There's the county part, which we have no control. That's ad valorem.
That's
how they
going
set
into
it
their
up.
system.
Right? That's how their system is set up. When we're in their district, we live by those rules. Okay, so that's already been established. Then there's the town O&M, which is another piece of it. That is not ad valorem. That is going to be, what is the total cost divided by the number of homes in the district. The third piece that is ad valorem is going to be any borrowing. And that's how we chose to set it up. I don't know if there's
Right,
anything
so
else
I
that
would
council
say,
wants to add to
thank
that.
you
but-
thank you for your response, I appreciate that. I don't think that that's necessarily fair, because you've gone, and I'm getting assessed, when I looked at the numbers, it looks like my estimate is like 1,800 something, and why is it, I don't understand why it would be assessed on that rate. Will be 2 people living in the house, it'll be the same. I could have a neighbor who has 4 or 5 people living in the house, and they're putting more water into the system, or more sewage into the system, rather. So I don't really think that that's a fair way to do that. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know what other people think. I think it's a fairer way to do it.
Based on flow. What you're saying is what I'm interpreting you're saying is that it would be fairer, in your view, if it was a function of how much water you used.
Exactly. Put a meter on my outage and charge me for what I use. Yes, that's absolutely what I was.
There's different ways to do it. That is another way to do it.
I don't, because I'm going to be paying more, and like they said, I'm going to be paying, 3-4 times the cost of what other houses in the area are going to be paying, and I don't really think that's fair as a resident. That's what I'm saying. So that's what I wanted you guys to hear. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
I have one question. Now, are you-
Ma'am, ma'am.
You have to come up here,
Okay.
No.
Maybe we'll get you a mic.
We'll get your mic.
They're not going to raise your taxes.
Did you hear her?
Yes.
We'll repeat the question and maybe.
She asked if the county was going to raise their taxes. The county is assessing their fees as a function of the ad valorem. They don't control your taxes, the town does. They control those fees, and those fees are what we have in the document.
From the board or the engineer, I would like an answer on the R10 houses that are not included, since this is how your claim was to protect the lake from the R10 houses because of the high density. Those streets are between Shenorock Lake and the reservoir. So if you're including me, which I'm further from anything, how come they're not included?
I think you're referring to Horton Estates, correct?
Yeah, go ahead.
Correct?
Last meeting, I was told they're not R10. They are R10.
You're referring to Horton Estates, correct?
Excuse me?
Are you referring to Horton
Yes.
Estates? Is Horton Estates upgrading or downgrading of the lake?
They're upgrading to Amawak Reservoir.
Are they upgrading or downgrading to the lake? We just talked about, you just set the premise of.
You're
say this
looking
is
to
about-
clean the waterway, and you're going after R10 zoning. Correct?
I answered your question. It's downgrading of the lake. As you stated, this is about the lake, and those properties are downgrading of the lake, meaning they do not flow into the lake. Yes, they flow into the reservoir. Yes, they do. This project is not about that. This project is about the lake.
So there are no houses in Horton Estates that water flows into the lake? They're on the lake. There's 4 or 5 of them on the lake. Their backyards are on the lake.
They're not included.
They're not included in the district.
There's a lip right here.
Yeah, that's what.
It's like anything.
They're not included in the district.
I'm further from the lake. Why am I? In other words, I'm looking for a good answer here. They're on the lake.
Do people, is Horton Estates maybe an R10 zone? That may be added at some point in the future. This is a project around Shenorock and Shenorock proper, and we drew the line around what we believe is Shenorock proper. There's R10 lots in other parts of town too that are not part of this, right? Down the street, there's some here, there's some over on, there's more than just Shenorock.
But
and
they're
Lincoln.
right there on the lake.
They're more than just, the R10 zone was drawn, the district was drawn around the R10 zone of what would be considered Shenorock.
Okay. Okay, at this point, I'd like to make a motion to close our public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And now there's some procedural things we need to do. Roland, you'll help us with that?
Yep.
Number 1 is to declare, town board declared, make a motion to declare a negative
You
declaration.
would adopt the negative declaration prepared by Woodard and Curran. And
Okay.
just to be clear, what's the date? I just want to make sure they adopt the latest version. September 12th, version of the neg deck.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Folks, we still have an active meeting going on, please?
These should be roll call votes.
Well, I'm doing roll call for the remainder, but negative deck as well? Okay, roll call.
I'm
Patty?
sorry, who gave me my second?
Me.
Thank you, sorry. Councilman William G. Faulkner.
Aye.
Councilman Richard G. Clinch.
Aye.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr.
Aye.
Supervisor Rick Morrissey.
Aye. All right, the next, so that's moved, so moved.
The next document is the resolution making certain determinations, which is the requirement for the state controller. You're basically affirming that all the properties that can be benefited are being benefited.
Okay.
So again, a roll call vote.
Second.
I'll second it.
I need a second?
I'll second it.
Councilman William G. Faulkner.
Aye.
Councilman Richard G. Clinch.
Aye.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr.
Yes.
Councilman Supervisor Rick Morrissey.
Aye. All right, the third one is resolutions establishing Somer District Number 2, subject to state controller approval and permissive referendum.
Correct?
Second.
All in,
Yeah.
roll call.
Councilman William G. Faulkner.
Aye.
Councilman Richard G. Clinch.
Aye.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr.
Yes.
Supervisor Rick Morrissey.
Aye. The next resolution is authorizing application to, let's see.
To the state controller.
All right, a resolution authorizing application to the state controller.
Second.
Roll call, Patty?
Councilman William G. Faulkner.
Aye.
Councilman Richard G. Clinch.
Aye.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr.
Yes.
Supervisor Rick Morrissey.
Aye. All right, and Roland, we thought it'd be appropriate to put the resolution petition to the Westchester County
Put that number 5, yes, that's fine.
Board of Legislators. This is to get into the Peekskill Sewer District.
Which is key.
Roll call?
Second.
Oh, second.
Aye. Second. I'll stick with the band.
Councilman William G. Faulkner.
Aye.
Councilman Richard G. Clinch.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr.
Aye.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Aye.
Supervisor Rick Morrissey.
Aye.
Sorry.
And then our final resolution
It's
is
in
our
writing.
bond resolution.
Is that right? Yep. So I'll second
Yes,
it.
that's correct. That again requires a roll call vote.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman William G. Faulkner.
Aye.
Councilman Richard G. Clinch.
Aye.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr.
Yes.
Supervisor Rick Morrissey.
Aye. Okay, so that concludes our public hearing and action to establish the Somers Sewer District Number 2. And as described in our public hearing, there is a mechanism called a permissive referendum, which was thoroughly explained. And we will be publishing on the 19th, is it?
It will be published on the 19th in Somers Record.
Okay. At this point, before I go into the next public hearing and open comment, our Somers Litter Task Force volunteers have been patiently waiting. They've probably learned more about the establishment of sewer district than they care to know.
Absolutely.
But these are stellar volunteers for the town, and I'd like to call up their chairwoman, Susie Moravec.
Susie Moravec.
And Rich Nash.
And Rich.
Oh,
Well,
and, oh, look.
Susie, I'm going to have
Oh.
you introduce your task force.
Thank
I
you
don't know
all
about
for
you guys,
waiting
but
around.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
That was tough. Wow. God bless you guys. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Susie Moravec, and I am the president of the Somers Litter Task Force. I will introduce to you Mrs. Annie Gullen. She's our secretary.
And if you would stand when she introduces, remain standing.
Mr. Richard Nash, our Vice President, Mrs. Barbara Noth. Yes, our Director and General Counsel.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, how could I forget Peter? Mr. Peter McManus, our stellar picker-upper and a director. Picks up the entire town for us. Bruce Heller in the back here is a board member, yes, he came on recently, Mr. Bruce Heller. At home is Mr. Jack Gullen. Hi, Jack, I know you're watching, treasurer. And Joanna Nash. And Sandy DeSena from Somers Women's Club, who are absolutely fabulous. They are a force to be reckoned with when they pick up litter. And Joanna Nash is at home, and she is also a member. So that is our entire
Okay, so I
litter
would like
task
to
force.
publicly thank you and recognize you as, like I said, stellar volunteers.
Here, here.
Absolutely.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to?
Okay, well, we appreciate that, Rick. I hope this is going to be a positive night after all that. Okay, so thank you for allowing us to speak tonight about the problem of illegal dumping and litter in the town of Somers. The Somers Litter Task Force is a nonprofit organization that was formed in 2012 to raise awareness and be a catalyst for solutions to the ever-increasing illegal dumping and litter on our roadsides in Somers. Our goal is to help the town find ways to make Somers litter-free. However, despite our efforts, littering and illegal dumping increases every year, and it has become insurmountable. Since Somers does not have a refuse and recycling department such as in Yorktown, or a recycling center such as in Bedford Hills, the Somers Litter Task Force has taken to the roads in Somers to pick up the litter and illegally dumped junk, and we have had to encourage residents and businesses and organizations of Somers to do the same. Twice a year, we invite residents and businesses and organizations to participate in our town-wide cleanup events. Our current event, Operation Cleanup, runs until Sunday, November 3rd. Even though the combined cleanup events extend for 4 months out of the year, the daunting task of roadside cleanup is a constant chore, and we and our dedicated volunteers cannot physically keep up with the litter and illegal dumping. We need the town board's help to rid ourselves of this blight on our town. We are asking the town board for the following: to allocate funds specifically for the cleanup of litter and illegal dumping in Somers, to commence court-ordered community service of cleaning our roadsides. During the recent primary, Judge McDermott called me, and he agreed to court-ordered community service to include roadside litter cleanup in Somers. And third, the enforcement of the town property maintenance law for businesses, schools, parks, and residents. I would like to now introduce Mrs. Annie Gullen, Somers Litter Task Force Secretary, for a few comments.
Okay, and Susie, if we can get a copy of your asks submitted to the clerk. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if can you hear me? There we go. Litter is a big issue.
You gotta talk in,
Closer?
yeah.
Right into
Yeah.
the mic.
There we go.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Litter is a big issue in regard to the presentation of our town to our residents, potential buyers, businesses, and visitors. Somers needs to make it more of a priority. We as a volunteer organization are limited in our manpower and actually to actually keep the streets of our town clean and free of debris. We are concerned that potential buyers, businesses, and visitors will be turned off by the appearance of our roads. If our board member and litter picker-upper extraordinaire, Peter McManus, went on a long vacation or moved to the clean, litter-free streets of Richfield, Connecticut, no one would be picking up the 5 or 6 large bags of litter every week that he picks up every week. And it would look like a slum very quickly, unfortunately. With the advent of the new international school coming to our town and the high-end housing being built, there will be an influx of visitors to our town, and we should be quite concerned about what our town looks like. As we see the litter as a problem, it brings other factors and issues to our attention, because we're on the streets, front line, and we see speeding as an issue, road conditions as an issue, weight limits on trucks, and traffic in the historic district. So I'm just going to throw that out there, but I'm going to get back to litter specifically. We do have a property maintenance ordinance for private homes and business properties in the Town Code, Chapter 135. And it is our understanding that the building department is responsible for monitoring and enforcing this code?
They follow up on complaints of property maintenance, yes.
So they don't actually investigate themselves? They only people complaining about
Now,
it?
code enforcement in building departments, and this is just not in Somers, this is countywide. Besides routine inspections and things like that they have to do, inspections like that are all complaint driven. So
Wow.
we do respond to complaints, but we don't actively go down Main Street and then go to Broadway. So
That
feel
might
free
be a
to.
good idea, though. It's an idea that maybe we
You know
should
what?
have some,
You're right.
monitoring of this, because otherwise, we're residents all like citizen arrest kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we can be
Well,
like.
you can make a complaint
but-
anonymously also. So.
Anyway, but it does seem like maybe it should be a little more systematically monitored and enforced.
Well, you're more than welcome to make an appointment and come in and speak with Tommy Tuma, our building
Okay.
inspector.
Okay.
Sure.
Anyway, it's all who live and work in this town should be responsible for taking pride in our property and keeping it clean and maintained. And we would like the town highway department to, as Susie mentioned, Dr. Moravec mentioned about the town highway department taking responsibility for maintaining the cleanliness of the town's roads to be cleaned. We'd like the town to continue to apply pressure on the state to maintain the state roads, which are dangerous for our volunteers to clean.
Can I ask, do you guys run into any difficulties about that? In other words, are you precluded from working on the state roads and restricted?
Are we
to
precluded from working on?
Yes.
No, we're not.
So
I mean,
they'll
nobody's
litter
telling us
everywhere.
not
No,
to,
no,
but
they
we
suit up
probably
and
shouldn't just because it's
risk
dangerous.
their lives
You
out
can
there.
walk on the road.
Yeah, we're.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah. They have been doing that.
Lincoln Hall to
Yeah, and Lincoln Hall is
And that's right on
narrow.
the reservoir, too.
Yeah.
And so earlier this week, I had a meeting with the new resident engineer from the DOT.
Okay.
Giselle Vaghini. And I did bring up Somers Litter Task Force, and I said that she will be hearing from you. So I've laid the groundwork.
Oh.
Besides talking to her about, all our numbered roadways and how they're, not being maintained. So
Right.
she's been prepped.
Okay. So you'll give us that
Reel her
contact
in.
information
Yeah.
to do that?
Contact my office, we'll give you her number.
So anyway, so picking up litter is one way to keep our towns beautiful, but it really comes down to who is doing the littering and why. We can't really know who or why, but perhaps cameras, which will be discussed by our Vice President, Rich Nash, have been helpful in other towns. And I understand, well, he'll talk to you about that issue. And there are larger items that are obviously being dumped from construction jobs to avoid dumping fees, I assume. There's other items that are obviously flying out of trash haulers, and that topic will be addressed by Peter McManus. And what is the cause of littering, and what is the solution? We should do all we can to teach our children as well. We should be raising a generation that would never think of littering. Meanwhile, our children should be part of the solution and not the problem. Clubs and organizations should be sure that no one litters at or leaving their meetings. When there's school activities, there should be not a stitch of litter, including water bottles, found after the practices and games. We can ask the school to incorporate programs that will address the fact that we all produce trash, and what we do with it will affect our homes, our community, our state, our country, and our world, our planet. I have made initial contacts with the school and BOCES, actually, about incorporating some curriculum or talking to clubs, you know, like the environmental club and so forth. So hopefully we're going to be including the youth in this. I don't know what is already, I need to find out myself, what is already in place in the schools, but I think that litter is still an issue, you know, so maybe there's, you know, some things being discussed, but so if students needing community service would commit to cleaning up activities, that would help keep their schools clean. And then school curriculums could include caring for the environment. Parks have a leave no trace policy. National parks anyway, and you know, our parks should. So our town and our state and everywhere really should have a leave no trace policy that needs to be ingrained in all people to adhere to such practices and policies. At the Women's Club meeting last night, where we gave out safety vests, this is something that, you know, we are a not-for-profit organization, and we have received funds, sponsors, that have helped us to purchase safety vests and picker-uppers. So that makes it easier not to have to bend over, and also safer, cleaner. To thank them and keep them safe while they help clean our town. It was brought up how other towns, like Yorktown, has the Battle of Yorktown one-day event. And initially I thought that maybe that was, you know, just not going to do very much because it's one day, and then the next week it would be. But then the more I thought of it, I thought that, well, the whole town gets together, and it becomes a town effort. It's a community thing. We all join in, and then it raises everyone's awareness for cleaning up, and maybe also helps everyone to see, you know, how awful it is to have litter, and they'll be more careful not to. They'll have a
I wouldn't even
distaste for it.
sell you folks short, because your e-waste day, your fall and spring
Yeah.
cleanup, I mean, you've really
Yeah.
raised the awareness in this town.
Well, I think so, but I think too, like
do
so,
more.
like the Battle of Yorktown is a one-day thing, and they collected 10 tons. Is that correct?
10 tons.
Of litter in one day. Of course, it's a bigger town, you know, and there's more residents, and you know, probably a lot more litter, perhaps. But I think that having a one-day event, we might consider that for the spring, because I think that it might really help to get the town as a community to really jump in and really be aware and participate in it. So, you know, we have Earth Day. We can think about that for the spring. Anyway, I also want to suggest that that we have a town representatives meet with other towns like Yorktown and Bedford. They have a much more advanced, really, programs for littering and recycling. And recycling is an issue these days because of China's not accepting it, and so, you know, we have to step up to the plate as a country and even our town. But anyway, Bedford has the 2020 plan, and they are like way ahead of a lot of towns, not just Somers. But I think that we could learn from them, that we could benefit from them, and do a better job with what we do with our trash. All this to say that we're a small group of volunteers, and litter is a great big problem, and we need the support from the town and more volunteers, actually, to help implement these programs that I'm brought up tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. That was wonderful. And next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rich Nash, who's probably going to discuss the cameras.
No.
Good evening, Board, and thank you. I want to talk about cameras, and I've talked about the motion-activated cameras to you people before, and I can only say one thing. Thank you for stepping up to the plate and purchasing a camera, all right? And Rick Morrissey, I don't know if you purchased it or you rented it, but you probably have gotten some results from the camera, you know, as far as that goes. And if you can possibly see the light and maybe purchase more, that would be really great. If you can, you can. You can't, you can't. I know Yorktown Heights has been very successful with their cameras, and they haven't been able to prosecute people that have been littering. Okay, and I don't know how many cameras they have, you know, or how many people they prosecuted. But I can tell you the other day I was reading an article about Philadelphia, and they're in the process of installing 100 cameras. Of course, they're a lot bigger than we are, okay? But it's so important to have these cameras because that's one of the key ways to prosecute people, because you've got the evidence right there. And we need your support, obviously, and I thank you again in the past for doing what you did. We also need the police department support because they can write citations on the people that they see throwing litter, you know, and that was also brought up in the article for Philadelphia. And also we need the judicial support, okay, from our town judges, you know, that can prosecute these people. Okay, and even if it's for something different, the people that are on probation, they can, the judges can give them community service hours to pick up litter, okay, which would be a big help. So that's 3 areas, and if we all unite together, we can get a heck of a lot more done than we have gotten done right now. Also, in our town right here, our historic town, it's very important. I know that if I was to move here and looking for a house and I see litter on somebody's lawn and I see it in the road and everything else, I would turn away and I would say, maybe it's not so good for me to be living here. So especially in this historic district, I would really like to see it kept clean, and you know, people getting very authoritative and say, look, you just threw that there. All right, I'm going to write you a citation if you're a cop or whatever, you know, or if somebody sees something that we don't have on camera, you know, I would definitely try to do, you know, something in that direction. That's about all I've got to say, and hopefully you people can, obviously from what the other people have been talking about, you are in our corner, and I appreciate it very much so. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Rich Nash. That was wonderful. Okay, next I would like to introduce Mr. Peter McManus. Peter is dedicated to keeping the historical district and miles beyond free from illegal dumping and litter. As Annie mentioned, if Peter were to stop his weekly roadside cleanup, the roads would look terrible. We believe this is not the picture the town board wants to portray to those who live in Somers, who work in Somers, who drive through Somers, who are moving to Somers, and especially those who will be sending their children to our exclusive private academy starting next fall. So with no further ado, Mr. Peter McManus.
Good evening. Peter McManus, 34 Deansbridge Road, Somers. I started with the Somers Litter Task Force back in 2012, and I've actually been picking up litter in town for 18 years, off and on, mostly every weekend now since I retired last 4 years ago. I focus on the same 6 roads in the downtown area every Friday and Saturday. I gather about 5 to 6 bags of garbage every week, which approximately 20 to 25 bags a month. That adds up. Although many of the pieces come from people tossing items from their cars, the bulk of it comes from the out-of-town trash trucks traveling down the city carting.
Interesting.
Majority of these monsters trucks could very easily use 684, exit 6, Route 35, and come up 100 instead of coming through downtown. Excluding the city carting trucks that have to deliver containers, pick up garbage in the downtown area, that's different. These trucks are coming from Putnam County, they're coming across from the other side of Westchester. There's 10, 15, 20 trucks every time I'm out here on 202. And there are 18-wheelers. They carry tons and tons of garbage. And I'm not saying these guys are reckless in any way, but a lot of the stuff comes out of, you know, they have the tarp covered. They're doing everything legally. But a lot of the stuff comes out of it. And I pick up stuff that's bigger than cars, pieces of plastic, styrofoam, pieces of cardboard that you could fit a refrigerator in. People in their Toyota Corollas aren't throwing these out their windows. This is coming from these trucks. So can we find a way to ban these trucks, these out-of-town trucks coming through downtown, and make them use 684? It would alleviate 60% of the garbage that I pick up in the downtown area. And this is every week. 6 bags of garbage a week, you do the math, over a year. It's a lot of garbage. And the state doesn't seem to be doing it. I will say, if you pick up garbage and call Dominic, he's out there the next day picking up the orange bag. They don't have the time.
DOT.
The DOT. But they don't have the time and the manpower to do it. They come up and down Route 6 or 202 and 100 every week and pick up garbage. They don't have the manpower. So if we could eliminate these trucks from coming through downtown, that would be a great help. How we can do it, I don't know.
Well, that has been a request that I've posed to my town attorney. Yeah, how do we ban these 18-wheelers, you know, from barreling through our town? And I'm going to paraphrase the response you gave me, but unless you do have an engineering report about a truck crossing over a bridge, that it's, you know, going to impact that bridge, that you can ban. And
Are these they're going to city carting, obviously. I mean, is there just a way, I mean, you maybe have already done this, Rick, that we can reach out to city carting and say, hey, can you talk to the people?
oh, they have, yeah.
And they just don't
No,
listen.
I sit in my office and I'll call down there. I said, here's Carmel Sanitation coming down. Why are they on 100? And he'll grab the driver and say, the agreement here is to go out to 684, as Peter just mentioned, go down to 6 and come across 35 and up 100.
Okay.
So that's in place. And they also, I don't know how frequently they do, but they go out and clean.
They pick up.
Yeah, they do clean 100.
100 down there.
Can we put a weight limit that are going through town?
Yeah, but the weight limit is determined by a bridge. So if there's a bridge they have to cross, and you can have an engineering report that says that that bridge can't take constant weight at that amount, then you can control it. But you have to have a reason to be able to do it. You just can't set a weight limit.
I got you. Thank you.
Another thing, is there any way the town can rent a sweeper and get permission from the state to use it on the state roads? With you have tons and tons of grit just on the side, you know, sand, gravel, dirt on the sides of all the roads, and you have bicycle clubs coming through here on Sundays with probably $2,000 or $3,000 bicycles they're riding through this stuff. It's dangerous.
Is that all year long, Peter, or is that just in the spring you're talking about?
That's all year long.
All year long.
If you go out here, though, where they just put the new curb,
Primarily on the
Forno
state
installed
roads,
that
though.
new curb from Scott Place down to your parking lot here, there's all gravel along it,
But you're talking
along
about
the
the-
street, along the curb. It needs to be swept. And I did call the state in Poughkeepsie. They said they have one sweeper. Okay, that's hard to believe, but is there any way the town could rent a sweeper?
Well, we do.
Yeah, we
And we're mandated to sweep around the lake communities.
But you don't do the state roads.
No,
Yeah.
we're precluded from doing any work in the state roads.
But the town
Labor-
can
labor
plow.
issues.
They can snow plow the state roads.
Yeah, we have a
contract.
But they can't sweep them.
There's no contract.
Without a
Can't
new
even fill a
contract,
pothole.
which is a good idea.
Yeah, we can, yeah, that's right.
See,
We can
I
do
actually-
potholes.
and I
Yeah,
actually
that's crazy that we can't take care of the roads in our town when the state does it. That doesn't make sense to me, but that is the law
So
until we change it.
I've actually had conversations with Peter Harcum, Senator Peter Harcum, about looking into us being able to make emergency pothole repair and charging it back to the state.
Mhm.
Now, my highway department isn't thrilled with that because it's
That's true.
It's extra work. But this meeting that we had this week with the resident engineer, I brought that to her attention. I said we purchased a piece of equipment called a reclaimer, and you put millings in it, you put some tar, and it makes hot asphalt. I think 2 to 4 tons. That when the town goes out and fills a pothole, we permanently fill it. It's not loose gravel. It's not going to come up, and it'll stay in place until we get a chance to pave the road. We offered that to the resident engineer, and she said, well, you have a contract to plow roads, and that's a very lengthy process to get that established. I said, well, I just putting you on notice that our state senator is making that effort to see if we can get out there and do emergency pothole repair. So some of the things we're trying to address.
Is the town looking at the proposed most prestigious boarding school in the country coming to the old IBM property at their student safety regarding stuff I'm talking about? Like, well, I haven't mentioned, everybody's mentioning sidewalks and stuff like that. I see a lot of stuff while I'm doing on my bicycle, stuff that nobody else sees. And I'm not going to go into it that far, but for instance, Somers has nothing to do with the Purdy's train station. I guess that's North Salem.
What's the MTA, I guess, basically?
But whoever it is, the staircase has been out of service there for 8 years. You had to walk through the wood to get down to the station or down a road. There was sexual assault there 3 years ago on a Sunday morning. Even after that happened, nothing was done about it. The old piece of wood is still over the staircase. Do you happen to know, is there anybody going to fix that?
I believe Supervisor Lucas is working with the MTA to get that repaired or replaced.
So Somers
But
doesn't-
no.
That's definitely North Salem.
Yeah. Yes. 8 years. Is that what you said?
8 years, yeah. And you have to, people are walking through the woods, down a path to get to the parking lot to get to the
crazy.
train station. It's dangerous.
I used to live over there. I didn't know that. That's great.
8 years, yeah. So, but that's all I have to say. I do appreciate you having us up here tonight. And I appreciate working with you guys for the last 6 years, 7 years. And I just want to reach out to say one more thing. If people see stuff on their front lawn, bottles, cans that people toss out the windows, just pick it up. Put it in a garbage can, save it for the sanitation. It keeps your property cleaner. It helps me. And it'll help a lot. It'll help the litter situation a great deal. If just every resident goes out to the front of their house and just picks up anything they see on the ground.
Big impact.
Anything. It'll make it, in 6 months, this whole town will look different. Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Peter. I believe Sandy from the Somers Women's Club would like to say something. Thank you, Sandy. She's part of the force to be reckoned with.
Well, there's about 8 of us that do this, but
My issue
Sandy,
is
just state your name.
Sandy DeSena. I'm on the corner of Lovell Street and Robert Martin Boulevard. I've been here for 49 years. Same house. Since 684 has been opened, Lovell Street is a highway between Putnam to connect with 684. So some of our problem there on Lovell Street is the litter from people that are living up there and just trashing. I understand that Mayapack Avenue has the same problem with litter because of the same thing. People are coming from Yorktown and Mayapack and cutting down there to hit maybe the Taconic or again 35 and 685.
Ed Quaker Church Road.
But that's those are town roads, and I think maybe once a week a truck could just come up and check out those two roads, and they could pick up some of that on our town roads. I remember there was a point where our highway department did come twice a year with little sticks and so on, and they did physically clean up our town roads. And that stopped, and maybe that's when our litter. But I'm not telling you what the girls are finding on those roads.
Please don't share that with the public. No.
No.
Whoa.
So yeah. But we do it because we want to keep our town nice and clean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Okay, so gentlemen, do you have any questions for us?
Susie, have you mentioned a couple times about environment, or some of your people did, mentioning about the environment and protect the environment. In any way, has the Energy and Environment Committee reached out to you, or you to them, about sort of combining forces, maybe in the once or twice a year?
Mhm.
Although it's not technically energy or water or air, but it is the quality of life.
Yes. Actually, I have.
And when things get thrown out, it can seep into the ground. There's
Right.
stuff. As Rich Nash, he sees me walking my dog all the time on Primrose Drive. I clean that up as we walk the dog.
Right.
Somebody really likes Bud Light blue cans and bottles over there. It's
Yes.
not Rich. I've followed him. It's not him.
Right.
And so, it's years, the same people doing the same thing. And the thing is, this guy's driving, or this woman's driving, driving and throwing beer cans out.
Right.
In any case, I was just wondering if you ever partnered with those people.
I have reached out to the Energy Committee. I believe his name is Don.
Yeah, Donnie Bleasdale.
Yes, I'm waiting to hear back from him. So I would love to join forces
Which will
with.
make sure that happens.
Could you? Are you on the?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
the liaison. Okay, we will do that. Yes, we'll join forces with anybody. The Somers Women's Club, they're wonderful. The Lions, anybody. I know somebody's a lion on this board. Maybe we can join forces with the Purple Crowd and have a day in the spring with this huge event. We can work on something. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's disheartening from growing up here and seeing just how people just don't care. And I know I really hope it's not Somers residents.
Yeah.
I really hope it's transient people driving through, going to work. But even still.
Regardless, they should have respect.
Exactly, because I don't go
I mean,
to
if you look at
Mayapack
the
and
interior of my
throw
car,
stuff out there.
I
Yeah.
have to clean that out once a week.
Right.
You don't
so,
go to any town throwing it
no,
out.
you don't go to any town throws it out. No, exactly. We know better than that. But do you guys have any other questions? I mean, I like the fact that you have the pothole. You're talking to her about that. Is there any way we could possibly push for more as far as contracts? Because our state roads are the worst. I mean, that's it. What you see in Somers is state roads.
Yeah, that's
139,
So,
100.
One thing else I can share is that 139, which is the worst problem, one of the
Do you know where that is?
Oh,
paramount.
gee, let me think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Potholes? What?
Will
What'd you say?
will be paved
Yeah.
before 2020. So November.
means this year.
November is the date.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
November of this year?
Yeah.
Wow, they can do it before the winter?
Yeah.
Oh,
Still have a
up till
little bit of
December they
window.
can do it.
Awesome. Okay.
So
Yes.
this question in terms of enforcement, I mean, obviously if a police officer in Somers
Mhm.
sees active littering, he can write a ticket and a summons and we're good, right?
Mhm.
You see the guy in front of you throw out his McDonald's container, all of it, right on the side of 202.
Right.
What
do you
can we do about it? Are there best practices? Council, what can you do as a citizen about that? Can you take a picture of his license plate? And if so, is it worthwhile?
Well, we do have.
You can report it. Yeah.
Well, didn't we pass a
Is it
video
enforceable?
surveillance
Yeah. Yeah, we passed.
law?
Actually, just to let you gentlemen know, Annie and I have been doing research on North Carolina, and they have a fantastic litter program, right? And they have what they call litter bug, or it's like you can actually, catch a litter bug and call it in. So I think we would have to set up some type of protocol and say, okay, and let the residents know. We just don't want to blindside them and say, oh, by the way, your neighbor's going to be calling on you. But I have yet to see, and I know I've talked to Richard about this because he saw somebody with a coffee and he followed him, but I have yet to see somebody, and I'm just waiting because nobody throws anything out in front of me. But I tell you, they won't want to do that ever again if I get on
Well,
them.
Susie, I'm going to caution you.
I stopped
Do
him
not
at a
pull
red
anybody
light.
over. Use your camera.
Just
Yes.
rolled up the window.
And your horn.
Right, right. But I know, Richard, you stopped somebody, and it was a terrible comment that you got. I mean, would you like to share
I wouldn't
it?
say it was the most welcome thing they've ever heard, but I was trying to be very polite.
Right.
I think you dropped this, is what I said.
And what did he say back to you?
I wouldn't repeat it for the same reason that you didn't talk about what you picked up.
Didn't he say, well, you're not a police officer? I mean, as if to say, you can't do anything.
Yeah, who are you?
Who are
Little
you?
Police?
Yeah, who are you?
I'm a basketball coach.
Who are you talking to? So anyway,
I made
but
him run sprints
yes,
after that.
citizens calling in citizens, but you just got to be very careful because you could have some issues where somebody's not getting along with their neighbor,
Yeah,
throw
that's
some
right.
trash
Yes,
over.
that's it. Right.
And
That's
then-
the problem you run into.
That would
Right,
be.
and then everybody starts.
Oh, yeah, that's
So we just want to all work together. That's what, let's just cross party lines and work together.
Well, I think the point that all of you are saying is the basic thing that we all bring up our children for. Why do you live on this earth? To make it better, not worse. And
Right.
so whether you're here for a month or you're here for 80 years, you want to leave it better than you found
Right.
it. I mean, that's
Right. And litter
what
is
the
no
Boy Scouts
respecter.
do, and that's American Indian. When
Yeah.
you camp, you leave the campsite better than you found it.
Right.
That's a good way of living life.
Yeah, litter
And
is
some
no
people-
respecter of persons. Like whether it doesn't
No,
matter
you're
what
making
party
things
you're in,
worse.
Democrat,
It's not a-
Republican, black, white, doesn't matter.
It's not a party issue.
Exactly.
No.
Litter makes your town look terrible.
No, it's common
Well,
courtesy.
I do want to say the Somers Litter Task Force does make a difference in this town.
I
You've
hope
made
so.
it. I'm more aware that you have.
We wanted to have you come in, give us an
Mm-hmm.
update. It's overwhelming, the things that
is.
you've accomplished.
Yeah. I mean, there's times where we just want to stop. Literally, I got to be honest with
No,
you. I
don't
just
do it.
stop.
No,
I know.
no.
And then what will happen is.
Peter can't move out of town. Can't stop handing out orange.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, we like to thank you
I'm-
guys.
I'm going to say
seriously.
this, and
Well, we'll try to do more.
Very rarely do I mention this, but our town is run by volunteers
Get
like
out.
yourself.
I haven't heard that before. That's new.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
thank you
Okay,
again.
well, we want to thank you guys for your time tonight. We especially want to thank the hundreds of dedicated volunteers who might be watching and listening, who take the time and effort to help keep Somers clean. Without their help, only one can imagine how worse our town would look. So let's just keep up the good work. But we'll probably be knocking on your door for a lot more help.
Sure.
Because we need it, okay? And I'll give you my list of wants. my dear Santa list here. Yes. But thank you guys for the time, and I know that
And thank you for waiting. So sorry.
it's a long night. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
But now you know about
everything you do.
sewers and districts. Thank you.
I've got one thing to add. If we ever can prosecute somebody and bring it to light and get it into the newspaper, it'll make a difference in this town. People will think twice about trying to litter.
Well, even more
Okay,
so,
well, we're going to
Rich,
be more vigilant, see if we can catch somebody, and make
Rich,
make
but
them
if
the
we-
poster child.
even the community service.
I'm sorry, Tom, say it
Even the
again.
community service that you're talking about, if we
It's a
can
good
work that out
idea.
with the judges, that'll have an impact on people, because we'll be saying, what are they doing? They're picking up garbage, so.
Very true.
So,
Very true. It's like I was saying before, even if a judge prosecutes somebody, have them pick up litter.
yep,
Yeah.
very good.
Good suggestions. Thank you.
I just want to add one thing. Oh,
Sure.
Sewers.
Wait, just
one
let her
more thing.
finish.
The whole thing about the judge, Judge McDermott did call me at home, which I was surprised. I didn't think I meant that much to the town. Your
you do.
sphere of influence.
Treasure.
But so I'm just curious, should I follow up with him on this
By all means.
installation of this
Ask
community?
them what the status is.
Okay, because we want to definitely be on the list.
There is an issue with that, though, that
Okay.
perhaps the risk committee has to deal with.
Oh, great.
There's an insurance liability issue.
You know what it is?
When somebody, when the
Send me
actual
a
Right,
note.
of course.
mandated
You have my
to do
email.
that.
Send me a note. I'm on the risk management committee.
Oh, okay.
I'll get the risk management guys together.
Okay.
And we'll talk to Mike McDermott also.
Right.
So do it sooner rather than later, because I'll try and set something up.
Right,
very
because
soon.
I don't think he would have brought it up if he really wasn't.
No, it's
Well, no,
solid.
he-
It's just
No,
an
he's
issue
gonna-
that has
he's-
to be dealt
We
with.
just have to make sure that if we have people and we're selling it, you know, we want you to go pick up on
Right.
139.
Right.
There's could be an issue. So
Right, and
I'll
it-
talk to our insurance people.
Yeah, I think he also mentioned something about us being a liaison, but we got to be careful. We don't want to put ourselves in any risk as well.
No,
So-
we'll,
I'm sure there's legalities.
yeah,
right?
we'll figure it out.
But he's sincere.
Thank you.
Just do me a favor and shoot me a note.
Shoot an email.
Okay, question.
I think you have a new volunteer for the litter task
Yeah,
force.
there you go.
I've been helping for the last 14 years. I just wanted to get up here and say thank you for everything that you do, because I know it's hard, because 118 is terrible, because I would go up to 118 with my kids and I'd be like, no, I can't do this anymore. So I do it around the lake and I do it around Shenorock, so I know. One of the things that I did complain to the Parks Department for how many years, because I was always on the fields with my kids, is that we never had enough trash cans at Reese Park. Constantly. When everybody would leave, all the debris was there, and I'd be there with my kids, picking up, putting into bags, but there's no cans to put the bags in. So I said, can't we get more cans? You know, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay. Yeah, they've tried, I think what they did was they have, if you see each corner of the pavilion, and it feels they have, like a plastic.
On top, though. I'm talking about on top, sorry.
Yeah, there's just the one at the top of the stairs,
Yeah,
I think.
Yes.
Right?
So, okay, so my question is who do people call when you do see somebody littering? Because for years, I see so many people, and it irritates me to death, because it's so bold, just throw it out the window. I would call the town, they'd be like, well, call the police. Who do people call? Because they need to know. Who do you call? So, I know, right. So what happened was 3 years ago, I was coming through town where DeChico's is now, and there was like 4 people in a car. They literally threw out this huge bag of garbage. It looked like McDonald's, okay? But it was a lot of stuff. I was so pissed that I took a picture of their license plate, dropped my son off at CCD. I called the police department. I didn't get Chief Driscoll till the next day. I gave him the license plate number. He said, thank you, let me look into it. The people apparently lived in Heritage Hills, but the car was registered somewhere else. So he couldn't go after them. So what's the point? Like, you know, it stinks.
Yeah,
because
but what if it was them?
Right. It was a chance you take, but how many people see people littering? Because I've spoken to other people, and it's just very frustrating. So I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you guys do.
Our newspaper delivery man, it must be the time that he finishes his route, because they leave the cups and everything else on the corner of Lovell and Robert Barton before. So I know he has that corner where he dumps it. So I have to call the newspaper.
Yeah.
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 Sting.
Leave him a note.
Okay, I'm going to move along with our agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys
Thank
are
you
great.
very much for all you do.
They want to
So,
leave.
well, they can stay for the next
Want
item.
more? It's the excitement never, we got more.
The roads
Yeah,
to talk
yeah.
about.
This one's a barn burner.
Yeah, this is a good one.
So I'd like to make a motion to open a public hearing for changing the Bureau of Fire Prevention meeting day. Patty, publishing and posting?
That was published in the Somers Record and posted on the Town Clerk's Bulletin Board on August 29th.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
So moved. Is there anyone here to comment on changing the date of the fire prevention meeting day?
I would be
The reason why their meeting day is set in the town code, and in order for them to change it, we have to have a public hearing and comment. So the public hearing is open. Anybody want to make a comment, concern? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll further make, do we need to vote on that, Patty? Okay.
Adopt the local law.
I make a motion to adopt local law allowing the Fire Prevention Bureau to set their meeting days.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Which brings us to our public comment. I'll make a motion to open public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Is there anyone here for public comment? Yes, please join us.
10 Walker Drive.
Linda Luciano, 10 Walker Drive. Okay, so I'm here to talk about the Luna Bar and Lounge that has been closed since July 5th, making it look like changes were being made, and not one day this summer did any of the neighbors see anything going on. You know why? The same people are coming back under a new name, El Bandito. No soundproofing has been done, no improvements to the building, nothing. They have applied for a liquor license, which the next thing they'll be doing is applying for a cabaret license next. Will you be granting them a cabaret license?
I'm going to ask my town attorney, how do we not grant them this cabaret license?
Can you? Should it be denied?
And if you'd use the mic.
I'm going to have to check some cases. I'm not sure. Because my understanding is that the prosecutions which are in local court were not successful.
No, the judge threw it out.
Yeah. So there's not much of a record, other than the statements here.
Well, they have a record with the State Liquor Authority. I mean,
right.
I've written letters, they're getting
Yeah, but
letters from the
without-
community.
Without prosecution, successful prosecutions, I'm not sure.
But you can look in.
I'll look into it.
Yeah,
for
okay.
sure.
Are there any code enforcement things that we can do
So the town code,
before
okay,
we
which I've
approve it?
talked about,
Like what?
Well,
that,
we're talking about soundproofing and all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
but the building's never been inspected, so
well, that would be
how
part
can
of-
you force somebody to soundproof when there's nobody coming in and telling them they have to soundproof?
Well, I would think that would be part of the town board's review of an application, would be to have the building inspector inspect it.
It's okay. It's an administrative permit that is issued through my office. The application gets filled out, it gets inspected. Bill Permaruso does the inspection, signs off on it.
So it does go through building.
That's the fire
Yeah.
inspector only, not the building inspector.
I'm just,
Yeah, no, I know.
that's
All
our
right,
code.
so
It's
when
an
you make
administrative
that, when you make that referral to the building department, can you alert me to that, or
You trust me, you'll know.
we'll have, we'll have the
You're
building,
signing this one, I'm
Okay.
I'm kidding.
the building inspector accompany him? I
Right.
mean, you know, we can do what we can do. We
I
can't,
know.
you know, I know you were here.
I know.
We know there's,
I know.
you know, a lot of complaints. We just, the town boards is, it's not in our purview to be able to close businesses.
No, I understand that, but like it says, a place of entertainment must be soundproof, so that amplification is not
This
audible.
is an opportunity.
Right.
You know,
Beyond-
it's closed right now. They're trying to reopen.
Right. So, the other thing is the town code says that they can stay, well, I guess it's, well, not the town, well, maybe it is the town code, I don't know, you tell me. Or is it the cabaret license that allows them to stay open till 3 a.m. every night of the week?
Westchester County.
Yes, Westchester
Okay.
County, I believe.
Okay, so do you know that surrounding towns actually have a town code that say the bars and restaurants have to stop playing music by 11 p.m. because they are in a residential neighborhood? So I was in North Stamford at a restaurant that has bands on the weekends, and they stop at 11 p.m. because I asked them because of the neighborhood. Lake George Village, bars have to shut down starting at 10:45 because they're in a residential neighborhood. Someone was on vacation in Rhode Island this summer, told me they do the same thing there. Why can't we do the same thing?
You know, Linda's 100% right. I go to concerts at outdoor arenas, and it's the
Yes.
same thing.
Yes.
You love to go to them because they're over by 11.
Yes.
You know, an old man gets to go home. But is there a way that we can change the code?
It depends on how the places that you're describing that you visited, how they exist. They may exist under some sort of a special use permit where
Okay.
a board can control the
I don't know.
hours. Is this place zoned or non-conforming?
Non-conforming.
It's not conforming. Very
Non-con-
difficult to control that.
Pre-existing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been around since I was a kid.
Yes.
Oh.
There's
So-
been a
so
different
what-
thing since I was a kid, but
But what if we adopted a local,
They would be grandfathered.
it would be what?
They would be grandfathered.
grandfathered in anyway.
Even with a new owner.
Real quick, when you talk
And
about
who's this?
Joe Luciano, when you talk about non-conforming,
Where do you live?
okay, Mr. Garrity can confirm that they didn't have DJs there for. It was just a bar. It's not being a bar anymore, and not to say that you have to close them. She used the word close, but that the music stops. That's all. And I think that should be able to put in the, look, in your Lake George, they're in a commercial zone. And their rule is the guy packs up at 11:15.
I'd love to look into that.
Well,
I will.
Only because it's 100% right. You have all these arenas in place, not arenas, but you have these open air places like Bethel and all that. I don't know if Bethel has it, but they have to be done by like 11 o'clock. So
Yeah.
doesn't bother the neighbors.
Okay. My neighbor who was here had to leave, but she just wanted me to just mention that she wanted to speak on behalf of that. She's like, she just wanted to say to you that she just doesn't understand how we keep allowing this to happen. It's just not fair to the residents who surround this
The
establishment.
noise is the
She
thing.
spoke,
With her
her and her
son.
son
Yeah, I
spoke
remember
back in
that.
July.
Yep.
So, I mean, they hear it clearly on Parkway Drive. I mean,
you can tell her what.
Yeah, I will.
You know, we're a town board. We cannot close businesses.
We'll look at it from a couple
we
different
can
Okay.
do a building inspection when they submit their permit application.
Okay.
The town attorney will research how we could limit.
Okay.
The music.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, that doesn't seem unreasonable there to limit when the music can be.
I mean, but again,
Especially
it's
during the
it's they're only closed 2 days during the week. They're open from Wednesday to Monday night, and we're listening to it till 4 in the morning. And it's just excessive. It shouldn't be. It's, you know, I could see Friday and Saturday, okay, we'll live with it, but not during, when people have to get up and go to work, and it's terrible.
Yeah, I don't even know how that.
If you want to go to the city that never sleeps, you can take the train there, but it's not here.
Exactly,
So,
right.
It seems like that is a little excessive.
So Roland, just how do they overlay a cabaret license on something that may be grandfathered? I mean, it's sort of, it seems like they're overreaching on the basis of a premise that's been in place.
Well, I mean, we've done that, you've done that repeatedly as places have come and gone, right?
So there's
we have the
precedent.
precedent that's there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been happening for the last 10 years. So when we say grandfathered, they've had cabaret licenses for decades, for how long? But maybe a jukebox, piano. There used to be a piano player in there. People aren't hearing it 1,600 feet away. I mean, this is amplified DJ music that's crazy. So
Included, it's just any live performance.
it's a lot, right. Well, and that's how they're advertising to get business, is that they're a live event venue. And it's just nuts what goes on up there.
Okay.
So
We'll look at it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye.
Is there anybody else here for public comment? Seeing and hearing no one else, I'll make a motion to close public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Next item on our agenda is department reports.
I have reports from the town clerk, building inspector, zoning board of appeals, plumbing, Bureau of Fire Prevention, Parks and Recreation, Planning and Engineering, tax receiver, and director of finance. I also need to announce a new liquor license application has been filed with the town for Michaela's Restaurant, doing business as El Bandito, located at 208 Route 118.
Okay, thank you. Next item on our, now we begin our town board agenda. Somers Realty Road dedication. So, Roland, are we in a position to take action on that?
Yes, as far as I know, we have, we've reviewed all the documents. I think you have reports from Steve Wolfel. The one parcel, it's been a little confusing, but you're taking title to the roads, to the water tank. Let me just get the list. Because it's more than just the roads.
Yeah, oh, I know.
It's the bed of Clayton Boulevard, the road widening parcel along Mayapack Avenue. It's the water tank parcel lot. It's the sewer pump station parcel. And it's the other town roads, proposed town roads, Halsted Street, Columbus Street, and Hoyt Street. You're not taking title to the parcel, I think it's on Mayapack, that's reserved for a future firehouse, because they're dealing with the commissioners on
Yeah.
that directly, which makes sense.
Mhm.
Rich Williams is here if you have any questions for him. He's the engineer for Somers Planned Hamlet, but
Correct.
I have all the paperwork.
And this is all part of the prerequisited, build out up there. I mean, we understood this.
Yeah, the planning board accepted the offer of dedication.
Okay, yeah.
Straightforward.
Good,
Straightforward, that's
I do
the
have a
point.
question.
We do.
On the road that goes, it's on the northern or the side towards Clayton Boulevard, that road is to continue up and around to the upper part of the parcel. Is this dedication?
That's a question for Rich. I
Right.
don't know the
No,
geometry.
and I can show you all the roads if it helps for clarity, but there is a road that is, it's only constructed to item 4. It's up in the upper portion of the lot.
So that's
That is
not
part.
inclusive.
That is not part of this.
It will be at some point? You would anticipate or no?
If it does, I mean, it was built to item 4 with the hopes that one day there is an adjoining 40 acres that is not part of the planned hamlet, that is owned by Somers Realty.
Okay.
It's zoned R80. If that were to be developed, this is its access because it's a landlocked parcel.
That's the one that's up in the back.
That is the one that's
Yep.
up in the back that runs along the bike trail.
Yep. Okay.
It ends just north of Cagle Park.
Yep. Yep.
So that is not part of this dedication.
Okay.
There is one more road that Mr. Barone didn't mention. That's Clayton Boulevard.
Oh, no, I mentioned that.
Oh, you did? I'm
Yep,
sorry.
the bed of Clayton Boulevard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was first.
I'm sorry.
So it's a straightforward adoption.
Yep.
Okay.
Want to make a motion?
Yeah, make a motion, we take the
Adopt.
roads that are.
Take
that-
ownership.
Take ownership of the roads that were previously mentioned.
As listed.
Okay.
And the other parcels, in addition to the
The
roads.
water tower, the pump station.
Road dedications and other parcels.
From road dedications and other parcels from Somers Realty subdivision, Phase 3. Look how smart I am.
I need a
Second?
Second.
No, that is impressive.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
So moved.
Thank you.
Our next item.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks for hanging around.
On behalf of Somers Realty, they did want me to just say, thank you to the town board. I mean, this has been a long process for that
Long.
planned hamlet to get constructed. And we believe it's been a beneficial addition to the town.
Well, and thank you for
It's a
staying here,
win-win.
because tonight we knew it was a long process for you just to stay here. So we appreciate that.
Take care.
Thanks, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate you hearing everybody out.
Oh,
We really do.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
For the sewers.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanall for making the
We're-
effort.
All right.
We look at the middle of the lake for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, in Shenandoah.
Mhm.
So, we've watched all the changes. I've also yelled at many people, kids, throwing litter and going out of the house and saying, pick that up.
Keep doing that.
I've also called city carding when they dump garbage there.
Mm.
And called the number on there and then called the supervisor and watched that they didn't come back there
Mm.
to dump the garbage that we pick up.
Yeah.
We've been picking up garbage there for 40 years.
Thank you. This
Um,
agenda was right up your alley.
Yeah.
So,
Sewers, litter?
Yeah, you were all over this agenda.
we're all over this, but anyway, I just want to always thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here and also to watch on the TV and watch the town meetings and see what's
Okay,
going
that's
on.
very much appreciated.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
We love
Thanks.
Somers, so.
Yes.
Good, so do we.
Greatest
Someone loves
town
you.
on earth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is a petition to extend / join the Amwalk Shenandoah Rock Water District to 3 Cardinal Way. We have to
Schedule a
We're gonna adopt
publish,
the order scheduling a public hearing.
Yep.
Adopt the order scheduling public hearing.
Okay, so we'll adopt the order and schedule.
Make a motion to adopt the order to
So,
schedule.
roll call vote.
Okay, and schedule a public
Public
hearing
hearing.
for 10/10/19?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm just curious, this seems far from the rest of the district, is it not?
there's,
1, 2, 3, Delra would be here. So this is part of phase 2 then, I'm sorry.
No,
this is
no,
phase
no.
2?
No, this is the.
This is
water
totally
district.
different. This is not in.
This is the
this-
Amlock Water
This is
District.
water, this is.
District.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is a water.
Yeah, this is
district.
not.
it's
Shut
not
up.
sewer, it's water.
It's
Right.
called
They already
water.
have.
Right, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we have
They
a
wanna
motion.
Connect in.
Second.
Second.
Councilman
Roll.
William G. Faulkner.
Aye.
Councilman Richard G. Clinton.
Aye.
Councilman Anthony J. Sirico.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas A. Garrity Jr.
Yes.
Supervisor Rick Morrison.
Aye. So moved.
Thank you.
And this is exactly what people were asking about before, someone who wants to join the district who isn't
How can
in
they
it
get in?
originally, and then the costs would have to be incurred, that have been, other people have paid for capital resources, and they have to sort of catch up to become part of that district by making those payments. So it's a process that follows in any district that is created from water, sewer, or lighting.
Sounds like somebody's been paying attention.
You know, if you're here 12 years, Tom,
That's it.
you gotta learn something.
Something sooner or later. Blind
And if
squirrel
not, I
finds a
just
nut.
continue to make things up. That's always my way.
Okay, our next item is Software Consulting Associates web-based support for pass, tax, utility programs discussion. It's been brought to my attention by our IT guru, Tammy Sava, and Ray Maggi, that there have been municipalities throughout the United States that have been hacked and their data being held for ransom.
It's crazy.
There's a municipality in North Carolina, about 30,000
yes.
population.
Yes, they're
They had to
blackmailed.
pay $650,000 to get their, and not all of their data back.
But what's crazy is, because I've had some experience with it, is they have like a help desk that after you pay the money, this help desk helps you get your information back.
Oh
I mean,
my
at least
God.
That's
That's how organized they are?
They're so organized, it's unbelievable.
No, this needs to be done. It's just,
crazy.
you gotta get this done quickly.
Yes.
There's another one, they lock your data and your website and everything until you pay them a ransom, and then they unlock it in some
Well,
way.
that's kind of what this is.
I would
Yeah,
guess.
it's the same thing, that you just can't get your data until you pay.
Oh, they don't steal, oh, they just lock it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they don't want the data, they could care less about the data,
Okay,
they just
so
don't want you to have access to it.
Got it.
This service, which is cloud-based, would be moving our stuff into a cloud-based, those programs that I mentioned. So we're requesting to purchase CAC web-based support for past tax and utility programs in the amount of $5,940 per year, and that would be for 9 users at $55 per month.
I have a question. If we buy this, I mean, I'm just curious,
Mhm.
and we get hit by this,
What's our remedy?
do they pay whatever the ransom is?
I would think that's their.
Okay, I mean, I don't know, I didn't see that anywhere.
No, I
so-
don't-
And I don't know if there's an amount that they pay up to, or,
Yeah,
you know.
you're right, we should check
Or
that.
what it is.
Let's make sure we know.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll make a motion.
Thanks for your money.
Because
Oh,
the number-
sorry you got hacked.
The numbers that I've heard are not, like you said, 650. I mean, I don't want somebody to say, yeah, we'll cover you up to 50 grand.
I mean, that typically is not the case, but this is data security, and it's incumbent upon us to essentially take the.
No, I think we should take
You
it,
gotta do
but
it.
I'd like to find
That's a
out.
good question, but
Yeah, no, you're right, you're right.
there may be insurances and risk management aspects to this also. You know, your
Oh,
your
great.
task force.
I'm gonna have another meeting.
There you go. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to approve purchasing this software on the contingent that I will find out what the guarantee is.
Yeah, but either way,
No, either way you
we
have
need
to
to
do
do
it.
it. I think this is just more for our own education on it.
Okay,
if
so
what it involves.
I'll take that off the motion and just make a motion that we
Yeah.
purchase Software Consulting Associates web-based support.
But you'll find
Second.
the answer and then let us know what
Yep,
that
I'd
answer is.
certainly do that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yes.
No, I have, did I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
I'm not sitting next to Patty anymore.
Definitely this year.
All right, Rick, we're hitting the home stretch.
Okay, well, I'm just writing notes here. All right, so to the board's chagrin, I'm sure, I have a couple of add-ons. Authorize the purchase, these are memos from our highway superintendent. Authorize the purchase of a skid steer for $62,500, a plow wing for the skid steer at $10,495, and a cold planer at $19,618.36 per memo dated 9/10 from Tom Cheverini. Now, this
What
will
is
be
a
paid
skid
for out of
steer?
I was going to say, yeah,
Is
that's
this in the
snow
budget?
and ice and what, and fund balance.
Yeah, it'll be purchased with the remainder of the monies left in 2019 budgeted lines, and the balance to come out of fund balance, not to exceed $92,613.
Okay, right. I'll make a motion to approve the purchase.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. And number 6 is an add-on, authorize the highway department to go to bid for their 2020 materials for highway, once again per memo dated September 10th from Highway Superintendent Tom Cheverini.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Current vacancies, we have them. Volunteers come out. Upcoming vacancies on our Assessment Board of Review. Okay. Make a motion to authorize the hiring of Richard N. Savello, Jr., probationary as a part-time assistant building inspector to work no more than 17 hours at a salary of $35 per hour. Yeah, dated August 30th from Tom Tuma, building inspector.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And I'm pulling item 4.
Right.
Authorize the hiring of John E. Lewis as Somers police officer part-time to work no more than 20 hours per week and an hourly rate equivalent to 80% of the current police officer's rate, effective September 26th.
Just a quick question on that. Normally, the threshold is 17 hours. He's at 20. What's the...
Okay. that's-
Police have always been 20
Yeah, the
hours.
police have always historically been the 20 hours.
Right.
Because they're not CSEA.
Yeah.
They're not.
Okay, do I have a?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. And authorize the promotion of Officer Thomas Fulton to Sergeant of the Somers Police Department at an hourly rate equivalent to 85% of the current sergeant rate, effective September 5th.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Congratulations, Officer Fulton.
Yeah, congratulations. And
Sergeant.
Yeah.
Sergeant.
And
Effective
welcome,
today.
Get the guy
Officer
managed,
Lewis.
Tom.
Or did he already?
Okay, our consensus agenda. 1 through
I'm supposed to say something.
3 with an add-on here as well. Appointment of Bart Lansky to our Zoning Board of Appeals. Okay, any questions or issues on the consensus agenda?
No.
Okay,
not very big.
I'll make a motion to accept the consensus agenda 1 through 4.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Congratulations to Mr. Lansky.
Yes. I'm sure he'll be a valued addition to that board. Patty, you want to run down the announcements?
Hell yeah.
Stopwatch is on. I bet under 2 minutes.
Okay.
And nobody will know where they're going.
They'll all be on the website.
All of this information is on our town website. starting with the Somers Annual Fall Townwide Cleanup is Saturday, September 7th to Sunday, November 3rd. Family Farm Festival is Saturday, September 14th at Stewart's Farm in Granite Springs. Somers Education Foundation's 3rd Annual Chili Cook-Off is going to be held on September 15th from 11 to 3 p.m. at Reese Park, and I know that the town of Somers has a very special team this year, so everybody come and vote for us.
Yes, we
Chili,
do.
chili,
That's
bang,
right.
bang.
We're not pandering, but, sorry.
Just vote for us.
No, we'll vote for us. All right.
Somers
Come
Spice
vote for
Miners,
us.
right? Somers Townhouse Spice
Yeah,
Miners.
Somers Town
House.
Somers Town House,
Spice Miners.
Just come
All
and
right.
vote for us.
Not Spice
Yeah.
Girls, the Spice
That's right.
Girls.
Somers High School is having a fundraiser
That's
for the
right.
senior class, Meals, Wheels, and Deals,
Yep.
which is a food truck, also being held on Saturday.
No.
No, Sunday.
September.
Sunday, you gave this to the wrong person, I guess. Sunday, September 15th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. $10 per carload. Everybody come support the senior class.
My son's a senior, so come on out.
All right. I'm bringing my truck over.
Oh, good.
The food truck.
Somers Women's Club annual tag sale is going to be Sunday, September 22nd at Reese Park from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Somers Litter Task Force E-Waste Recycling Day is going to be held on Saturday, September 28th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at City Harding. And finally, this Household Recycling Day drop-off is going to be also Saturday, September 28th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at FDR Park in Yorktown.
Why, thank you.
Have a good night.
And again, like the supervisor said, those are all on our website, and you can get more information as to what you can drop off on the 28th and all that.
Please stop by Sunday, though, at the
Yeah.
chili
Chili
cook-off.
cook-off.
Please do.
What was the
Anthony's
team that you're
cooking.
supposed to vote for?
Just vote for us.
Somers Townhouse
Anthony's
Spice
cooking.
Miners,
Spice
yes.
Miners.
Yeah. Well,
And-
you're going to be too late, because
and
it's
the-
this weekend.
Are you going to come? Are you coming?
We'll save you chili.
Two other,
Cold chili is good.
Rick?
The recipe is the chili bang bang. All right? It's going to be new and improved.
Okay, closing comments, concerns, announcements. Yes.
Two quick things. There's a
Councilman.
Alzheimer's fundraiser at the Paramount, formerly Somers Manor, this Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. It's something that's certainly grown as an issue for our society. Everybody knows somebody who's affected, and of course, tomorrow night, Friday the 13th, is going to be a very bad night for Yorktown Heights as Somers Tuskers host and are victorious over them in our home opener. Go Tuskers.
You're here. Go Tuskers.
I did want to thank the Historic Society, Somers Historic Society, for yesterday's 9/11 ceremony. Brief, to the point, but I think it's good each year that we gather for that. The gazebo was great, the setting was great, the flag was great. So weather was good. So, it's a day that you don't celebrate, but it's important to commemorate. And I thank them for setting that up, and I hope they will continue to do so.
I think that's their plan, is to take it over.
I think
from now
so.
Right, it was a very,
And anything we can do to help, I'm sure we would all do.
yeah, it was a very poignant
Yeah.
remembrance.
It brings back memories of that day, and we all have somebody who
Very sad.
was connected in some way or passed away or something.
And I did hear from a family member of one of the, or local victims of 9/11. She and her family could not be here, but she said she very much appreciated her husband being remembered.
Yeah.
So we did do that, and we did say prayers for the families of the victims.
Very nice event.
Okay, any other issues?
I mean, just to say in the news, they've been reporting, that NICEAG is applying or petitioning for a 23% increase in their supply, in their transmission rates. And I guess there was a meeting last week.
Public Service
Commission. Public Service Commission meeting. I just have to say that all the municipalities, including this municipality, was very vociferously opposing the increase. I mean, the complaints are about, or our position is that there's no accountability, there's really been no trust, and their service level standards have been subpar. And I think we're pushing back on that. And we've had a board here, a task force, and we've had a representative there. And you know, we're very vociferous about that as well. So we'll see how this progresses.
Well, speaking of NYSEG, Tom, maybe you want to give us the utility task force?
Actually, I'm going to ask Rich. I missed the last meeting. I was traveling on business.
Yeah, what's the big question on everybody's lips? What's going on Level Street?
Yes, on Level Street, $450,000 has been budgeted for a beta plan, which is the ground-to-sky clearance. Now, NYSEG's position is that they can provide more reliable service should they adopt a policy that is being used in Connecticut. Currently, if there are trees over, around, above the transmission lines, they have 10 foot from the road and 8 foot above and below lines that they may clear. Their position is that, look, we can make it more reliable, have fewer outages. They think their figures are 60% fewer in Connecticut than here if we go ground to sky. They're trying that out on Level Street, and they've allocated money for that. So, you know, that's difficult when trees are lost. And that's a delicate balance. You want to do the right thing. You want to guarantee the electrical supply, but people come here because they like the rural nature and the trees. So that's what's going on over there. If you see a tree with a red mark, it has been noted by NYSEG's arborist, Sam Miller, that is a tree that will come down. Now, in their rate increase, and that is on the delivery charge. So if you see 20%, they say 20, the newspaper says 23, whatever. You know, if your delivery charge is $50, you're talking about $10 a month more. If your delivery charge will say $35, you're talking about $7 more. Delivery charge does vary depending upon the amount of electricity that you use. The more that goes through the lines, the more you pay for the delivery of it. It is not the supply charge, but it's the delivery charge. And that's throughout the state. It's not just right here. But in this Brewster region, which is Putnam, northern Westchester, maybe part of Dutchess, I'm not quite sure how far it goes up, so they divide the state into regions. This is the region where they would use some of the, what they say are the more, the measures that are designed to prevent the outages, because it looks like we have had more than our share, more than what you would expect in other areas. So they put some money into it. And so the first of that is on Level Street, as you say, where they're going to see the impact of that. They're going to try it out. How's it working? I believe that they say in their rate increase statewide, there's something $200 million, I believe, that has allocated in that budget for this sort of thing. In addition, they are upgrading they gave us a report a week from yesterday, upgrading their equipment in Heritage Hills, upgrading the lines that come out. There are, what, 5 circuits that come into town, and they have upgraded some. They're going to upgrade the rest. There's more of these reclosers that we've talked about, so that if something, part of the electrical line goes out, it's not like the string of lights on your Christmas tree where they all go out. They can reroute some energy so there's a quick outage and then it comes back on. And so there's money been invested in that. Those are types of things that are technical that they have been reporting on. In this meeting, of course, there was a lot of questions about the rate increase and why it is necessary and what are we getting out of it. And you know, their defense is, well, we need the money to make it better so there's fewer outages. NYSEG understands, and this, Tom and I know, this was a big advancement. From the very beginning when we had these meetings last year, about a year and a half ago, was very defensive, like we're doing the best we can, and you know, like these things happen. We said, we understand things happen, we just don't think you're doing the best you can. And now, NYSEG's official position, Carl Taylor, who is their, president or CEO? CEO of it, you know, has taken responsibility. Look, we have to do better. He's been there 2 years, and they're making a commitment to doing better. And even the representatives we had 4 representatives of NYSEG who were at the meeting. They said, look, it hasn't been done as well as it could. We're going to catch up. And their defense is also of all the electrical companies in New York State, even with an increase of 20% on their delivery charge, their basic service, just the delivery of electricity, it'll still be the lowest in the state. That's their position on it. But those are the things that were discussed, and these are open meetings. And if you look on the town's website, we have another one scheduled at this time for the first Wednesday of November, 10 o'clock right here. And anybody can come, and a variety of citizens come. We saw 4 people who never come before. The committee is about, what, Tom, about 12?
About 12 of us, yeah.
About 12?
Varying, some come, not all the time.
Yeah, and there were 4 people we hadn't seen before who just come in. There's one guy who sometimes comes. He owns a property in Somers, but he lives in New York, and he comes up just for the meeting because he wants to hear. And he offers very good suggestions. Then he goes back to New York. So we would encourage everyone to come, and you'll learn things. And it's always good to get more points of view. More is always better than fewer.
Right. Well, I wanted to thank Tom and Rich for stepping up and really running with the task force. I think it's not only enhanced communication, but I think we're getting, we've been heard. And
it would seem.
A lot of things are coming out of that. And I mentioned Lovell Street because...
You live there.
Not only that, but if anybody wants to see the future of protecting, the power grid, it's this
ground to sky
technology, and it's a dramatic look.
It is.
I mean, it is. There are big trees that have been taken down. I would only say I've seen this in Connecticut, and you get used to it. Things grow in. But besides the ground to sky technology, NYSEG is also offering, when people want to replant, where to plant it so you're not impacting their power lines. And I think one of the reasons why they did pick Lovell Street is because that line serves Heritage Hills.
Yeah.
And
one of the lines.
Yeah, one of the lines. And I've made, in every emergency situation we've been in, I've made Heritage Hills a major priority. Somers Manor, Heritage Hills, and the fire station and the schools. So let's hope for a mild winter. And
one other thing in that rate increase that is interesting if it goes through, and that's up to the Public Service Commission. So the the delivery of electricity, companies are given a monopoly, whether it be Con Edison, NYSEG, others in the state. In return for getting that monopoly, they are governed then by the state, regulated by the state through the Public Service Commission. This is unlike cable television, which is an unregulated, in my opinion, monopoly, and it's a bad part of the law that allows that. But in any case, what NYSEG is also asking for in that rate increase, if it is approved by the Public Service Commission, which has had a hearing in Yorktown and various others around the state, is a smart meter. And they would replace the meter on your house if this goes through, so that, one, if there's a power outage, they're not guessing like you have power and you say, no, I don't, or you don't have power and you go, yes, I do. They know exactly with each meter whether you have power or not. In addition, it can tell them when you're using electricity, which would allow for different pricing. So you say, look, I'm going to use the dryer at 11 o'clock at night instead of 11 o'clock in the morning, which evens out the demand for electricity, which will then limit the need for new power plants in the future, which is what everybody wants. It's not in anybody's interest to increase the number of power plants. One of the ways would be to even out the demand for energy. So smart meters it should be in there. If nothing else gets approved, I would think that should be, because that would be a huge improvement in the service each of us gets, and would make their lives a lot easier in knowing what they need to fix to get power supply back to each individual home. So the information would be very useful to them and would be beneficial to the homeowner. So I would hope that at least that goes through, if none of the other things.
Which will lower their cost and therefore maybe not be such a great increase.
Could be.
It's the frustrating part with this is, there's two things going on here. I think the task force and the work with NYSEG has been demonstrably positive. I mean, there's been progress. The other hand is that they really haven't had great service standards. These have been the worst performing circuits in their network, and they've represented something that was a little bit different. So, which means is that there's really no accountability and there's no trust, and we need to basically bridge that gap. I think we oppose a 23% increase. These guys have to figure out how to get their house in order, and I think we're seeing the improvements here just by using the bully pulpit and you guys getting on their case and making sure that there is some accountability, at least locally, to what's going on here. So
We're certainly advocating as best we can for Somers, no doubt.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Good night, Somers.